allowed to have.
Hello, we are live now, and yes, you're both allowed to have that coffee.
Okay, that's great to hear.
Our YouTube viewers, I think, are okay with it. Let's switch places, Zach.
Whoa, no, I'm a pie.
Let me. Hello, everyone. I just thought we'd go live because we say we go live at 11, so now we're live. But are we ready to be live? No, we're not.
Are any of us ever really ready to be live? That's not how life works.
That's not how life works. You're just born without permission.
You don't get a choice. Yeah,
you just come
you just
in.
get lived.
Like Dana the Dark Friend says, you're just thrust into this endless cycle of suffering.
She says that so many. I love it when she says that. That's one of my top 3 things that she says.
Yeah. Okay, so just so you know, peoples, this is a spoiler-free stream for our good friend Zach Reno, who I will properly introduce in a minute. But first, I'm going to call Mary Lou.
Oh, okay. Wow, we're really live.
Grant,
we're live.
Grant, what are you hoping to hear from this phone call between Sarah and Mary Lou?
An accent. An accent is like sort of at minimum what I got. I just got the notification that we're live. Look at that.
Yeah, we're live, baby. Hi, Passet. Mary Lou is definitely still asleep. Okay, we're live, baby. Just so you know. Okay. So
I want to say this is one of the top 5 most stressful ways to wake up. Someone being like, you have to be on a video call now. I need you to get camera ready 10 minutes ago and show up.
That's how our Mondays normally go. I usually keep it backstage, but I thought, why not? Let's jump in. Let's do it to it. Hello, everyone. Hello, K. Richard J. Hello, Pasut. Hello, Alicia. Hello, Philip.
Oh, how do we see these things? Oh, okay.
If you click on the comments tab, you can see the people talking to us. Yeah,
somebody was Dana back in high school.
From I continue to be Dana. I never left my Dana phase. As you can see from Zach's choice of Ajas today, Zach is a non-reader, so this will be a spoiler-free stream. No spoilers,
I
please.
decided just to sort of be upfront with my lack of knowledge.
No, I like it.
However,
yeah,
I've seen all of the TV show.
You've seen all of the TV show.
And that's basically the same as anyone who loves a book that becomes a TV show will tell you.
Yeah.
There's usually very little difference between reading the book and watching the TV show.
One of the things about the TV show is it's a very coherent explanation of the world.
Yeah, I'm sure you.
It's compact,
solid foundations.
I feel like I've got it.
So y'all have already heard Mary Lou and I talk about the first 3 episodes for like 3 hours. So I decided to bring in some friends so we could get some additional perspectives this time. Grant is an old friend. Grant and I went to middle school. We went to high school together. And Grant is he's got an you got like an MFA? Is it an MFA?
That's true.
You got an MFA in film. So Grant knows what they're talking about. Grant has worked often as an editor, so I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on especially the pacing of episode 1. I think you'll have some comments to make. Hello, Mary Lou.
Hi. Oh, sorry. Am I late or something?
You're right on time.
Is this what your room looks like moments after you wake up? Because that's absurd.
It's really impressive.
It actually is. I make my bed every single day as soon as I wake up.
Like the military.
Should not be there, but Princess was playing with it. This is Birdie Friend.
Hi, Birdie.
He's my friend. And that's Ted Lobster.
Yeah.
But this is exactly what my room looks like. You can't see what's on the floor.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
Which is a very delicate crust of the clothes that I've worn in the last couple days.
We love that.
Yeah. But I know exactly where each one is, and it's actually very organized.
It's a whole system.
I've told myself that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Caitlin, I agree. It is unfair that Mary Lou rolls out of bed looking beautiful as always.
You have no idea how much that means to me. Caitlin, you don't understand. Like, I'm going to be thinking about that for days. So thank you, Caitlin.
Yes. So we have Zach and Grant for as long as we have them.
I am so stoked. You guys are amazing.
Yeah. So I'll do some proper intros. Hello and welcome to Maidens of the Spear, where we talk about the Wheel of Time, and we have a wheelie good time.
A really good time.
Isn't that right? And today,
Did you guys know that was our like slogan?
I mean, I don't know how it could be improved.
Right? It's kind of perfect. I think we stumbled upon it like literally our first live stream, and we were like,
We did.
oh, forever.
We have a wheelie good time. Stop.
Like,
What did you just say?
yeah.
Exactly. I'm Sarah Kaplan. You might know me from Twitter at Spear Maidens, and this is my good friend Mary Lou. Mary Lou.
Hi, I'm Mary Lou. You can find me on Instagram, Twitch, and Twitter at Mary Lou Larry Moo. I've heard that handle's hard for people, so I'm thinking about changing it. Let me know if you have
Mary
any
Lou Larry Moo
suggestions.
And today we're joined by a couple of our friends. We got Grant, who is my old friend from middle school and high school, MFA in film, professional editor, filmmaker, director, screenwriter, person who's doing all that Hollywood shit. And Grant, don't laugh at yourself. It's true.
It's true.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
What did she say that wasn't factual?
That's 100% true.
It is.
Pintorp Tash knows off book. Look at that. Yes, that's right. And that's a good introduction to our other guest, Zach Reno, who is one of the co-hosts of Off Book, the improvised musical podcast. And Zach, you do a ton of other stuff, right? You're a screenwriter, actor, comedian, improviser.
Yeah, I do writing for the screens and the other things that you said. That's all correct. We're all just trying to make it in this big crazy world. We're all just different with our different magic and our different sword skills.
So Pintor Tash, to clarify here, so Zach Reno and Mary Lou and I are friends from the world of musical improv. So that is why you're getting an off-book Wheel of Time mashup stream today.
And then more recently, our Dungeons and Dragons campaign.
And yes, that's right. We're also in a D&D campaign together.
And it is the light of my life.
It's extremely good. It's run by Ross Bryant, and there's maybe no better DM on the planet, I've decided.
Yeah,
I think you might be right.
He's extremely good. And it's irritating because
the fact that our campaign was like the first campaign he'd ever DM'd.
It's wild.
And it only happened because Sarah was like, hey, would you want to be in a campaign? And he was like, I've been thinking about maybe, I don't know, DMing. Like, would you be interested?
Yeah.
And then it turns out he's like literally like greatest in the world.
He's extremely good. It's frustrating.
S-tier universe level.
Yeah.
DM.
Hello,
what I'm feeling is a lot of happy for you guys and no jealousy. That's what I'm feeling.
That's common. That's common when someone gets to talk about like a really fun thing that maybe 3 of you are a part of and one of you's not.
Yeah.
It's like very chill. It's very welcoming. It's a great way to bring two new people together.
Do you guys hear this like super fun like buzz saw that's happening in my
Grant.
apartment?
You think that's going on at Grant's house?
No, I don't.
No, that's my house.
Oh, that's your house.
Because it's like 6 feet above my head in the apartment above me. So if you guys hear that and it's bad, I can try and close my doors, but alas, we share walls.
Yeah, that's a problem. The apartment living. We can definitely hear it. I'll tell you.
Okay, awesome.
Mary Lou, this might be a mute when you're not talking.
Yeah, it just might be. Okay, I'm gonna mute me now, and you guys are just gonna watch me bumble around my apartment and try and like close all the doors.
This is what the people show up.
That's what the people want. That's why they come to us, because they know when you come to Maidens of the Spear, you're getting top-notch professional production. We don't start live streaming without everyone here. We don't call our co-host to wake her up in the morning. So what we do though is we do talk about the Wheel of Time. And Zach Reno, you have not. I don't know why I keep calling you Zach Reno. Zach,
that is my full name.
Zach,
almost.
You have not read the Wheel of Time.
No, but I did use one of my Audible credits to get the first one as an audiobook, and then I also didn't listen to that. But I do,
Hell yeah.
and I was bought the first book by a very good friend of mine years and years and years and years ago, and I think I fell off reading it a couple of times. Like, and that's not infrequent for me, not even for like books that I end up really liking. Like, I tried to read the Foundation trilogy like twice before the third time it stuck, and then I read all three. But
that's also not uncommon for The Eye of the World, which is the first Wheel of Time book. It took me like 3 months to get through The Eye of the World, and then 3 months to read the next 10 books. So it's just the first.
You just gotta get in.
Yeah, you just gotta get in. And Grant, I know you read the first some number of books a while ago.
It's between 6 and 9.
Okay.
It's one of those 4 numbers. The number of Wheel of Time books that I've read.
Okay, so you read between 6 and 9 Wheel of Time books years ago, but you have said your memory is hazy.
Yes.
Yeah, but you've been re-listening to The Eye of the World, right?
Yeah, I have, and my memory of it is that basically, that The Eye of the World is really good. So I'm shocked to hear you say that it took you 3 months.
I think it is really good, but only on rereads, because it is like chock full of foreshadowing and like setting up characters
it's insane
for love. But it doesn't
every
make
single
sense
page.
the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love Die of the World too. So,
Lulu, what is going on with your sound now?
Now the sound is coming from the headphones.
Now the sound is coming from the headphones because I thought you would hear the buzzsaw less. How's it going?
But it makes you sound awful, so I'd rather the microphone.
Cool. I'm just gonna try and slip in and see if anybody noticed.
We know.
Got it. Okay. Cool. Okay. What about?
Okay, so like, picture if instead of using a microphone, you were using like a garbage disposal, and that's there she is.
Okay, how's this? Is this
like
better?
a can in a
It's on normal
string
and
goes
great.
all the way to San Francisco, and you'll be
Put
picked
Mary
up
Lou in
via
a cave.
Sparrow
Good
Spike.
question.
I put myself in a cave. I really didn't think it would be that bad.
Now it sounds great. Now it
Hello,
sounds
Boggy.
perfect.
Hi, Boggy. I thought with Apple's AirPods Pro, the microphone might be a little better, but I guess not.
No, I guess that's very strange
It's because of the Bluetooth. It splits the audio signal between what you're hearing and the mic, so it's only getting like half quality mic pickup.
I wasn't ready for a real answer.
I was gonna say Sarah with the actual answer. My God.
Now you guys know what I deal with in every podcast.
Insufferable.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It is.
She's always right. It's insane. It's frustrating, but also terrific because then I get to be always right.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get y'all's like first impressions, because most of the people who watch our streams are obviously diehard book fans, because that's why they're watching a Wheel of Time stream. And Mary Lou and I love the books, and so we get the perspective of a book reader on what we've seen so far. But what we don't get is the perspective of someone who doesn't already know exactly what's happening and already understand the characters and the lore. So I'm very excited to hear, Grant, from someone who has a hazy memory of the beginning of the books, and Zach, who has no memory of any of the books. Just like first reactions, like how would you rate the series out of 10?
Zach, do you want to go first because you're truly flying blind?
Oh, sure. Sorry, did you say out of 10 or
Out
did
of
you
10.
say? Oh,
or you don't even have to give it a score. You can just give us first thoughts.
I'm gonna give it a personal score because like my bar for what a fantasy show has to be entertaining for me is extremely low.
Sure.
Like I will. It does not need to do a whole lot. So like I am enjoying this show at a solid 8 right now.
Lovely.
It's like absolutely no question in my mind that I'm going to keep watching it. It's like got things that I want. It hasn't done anything to really, really make me angry yet. Is it perfect? No, but also I don't have, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't have the baggage of someone who cares deeply about this series, right?
Yeah.
Like I care as much about this as I care about the Shannara Chronicles, which is another absolutely insane fantasy show that the world it's a fantasy show, but it takes place in a post-apocalyptic Earth future. So there'll be like orcs
kind of like
walking.
this one. I
I
don't know
don't
if you
know.
picked up on that, Zach.
I didn't. I don't understand. I did not. Is that a thing of this one? Are there helicopters in this
Sort
one?
of.
It is a
There's
thing.
not helicopters, but
Okay,
yeah.
because Shannara Chronicle has helicopters in it, and they walk by it. They're like, "Oh, what are these ancient machines?" And I'm like, "They're helicopters, my guys." Like,
Helicopters.
like
Yeah.
I know what these are. Like they're like, we're in an ancient cave, and it's like clearly a high school like prom where everyone was when the world ended.
Yeah.
So like, what was this? But this does not. I would not have gotten that impression from this show so far. Have they hinted at that already?
It's very subtle. It's mostly
Very
in what
subtle.
you see. So
Okay.
there's like a shot that you might have mistaken for tall, skinny mountains at the beginning of the show that is actually skyscrapers that are overgrown, like the ruins of a modern city.
Okay. Well,
And
now it's spoiled for me.
now it's spoiled for you. It's not a part of
It's not a huge part of the book.
the
in
story
a
at all.
meaningful way. It's like a deep lore thing. I like that. That's good. That's good to know.
And
Well, since the wheel of time constantly turns and every age come and then they come again, right?
So true. And I've heard that
Yeah.
about the Wheel of Time, that it does
Have you
keep
stopped?
turning.
the idea
feel
is
like they mentioned
basically we are their past and they are our past.
Now, they haven't been able to really like tell me what kind of wheel the Wheel of Time is.
A spinning.
Sometimes it's like a weaving wheel.
Yeah.
And sometimes
wheel.
it's a different kind of wheel that just
It's
spins.
a weaving wheel.
It's the weaving wheel.
Okay. Well, that's not how weaving wheels work, though. They don't continue to, they actually do stop frequently.
And they don't weave as they will. There's someone sort of doing it.
Well, see, that's the thing. No, the wheel does weave as the wheel wills. So that you need to accept into your heart right now. The wheel weaves as the wheel wills.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
we
but some
kind of
other-
like can't argue about that because it just like is. So
other
yeah.
hints at it. It's so this is really not like prominent in the books. There's a couple references to like very ancient artifacts that you can piece together are like worthless bits of plastic or something from our age. And there's some references to legends in the world that are inspired by stuff that happens in our time.
Got it. Like they talk about like Y2K, but they don't call it Y2K.
They about, for example, there's like a story in the world about two giants named Mosk and Merc who throw giant fireballs at each other across the world, and that's like Moscow in America during the Cold War.
Oh,
There's a story of how like somebody buzzed like flew an eagle to the moon.
Yeah, Glenn
now
who
we
flew to the
famously
moon in a
didn't
metal.
throw fireballs at each other during the Cold War. We thought about it.
That was the whole
thought
thing,
about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Is
the
this
whole
a
thing.
universe in which the Cold War was significantly less cold?
Well, that would have been like maybe like 10,000 years before the events of the show. So any real history is long lost.
Got it.
But if in the show,
to
when
say
they
okay, sorry if I am
sorry.
saying on the Shannara Chronicles, it is it's trashy, and I enjoyed a lot of it. I didn't watch all the second season once it came out, but it's just like a bunch of very sexy D&D characters like vaguely questioned for reasons.
One of the
Should we be doing that show? Hey,
I-
should we just take a break and watch that show?
I have never
Right.
met a
Right back?
single other person when I have brought that up that even knew what I was talking about. I was in a pitch room for the network that was making that show, and I think they were even only vaguely aware of the property that they were dealing with.
That's so funny. One of the stars was one of the
Everyone
stars
thinks
on
you
the
look
show
like
I was
Rafe.
on. Oh yeah, you do look like Rafe.
Maybe
One
I
of the
can just
stars
sort
of
of swap in
Shannara.
one time.
Yeah, see if
I'll
they
just
even
swap
notice.
in, and then it'll be my show now.
Yeah, like my good old AirPod switch. No one will notice.
No one knows.
No one will notice.
Yeah. In episode 3, when they're like kind of just situating you in this mining town, if you
Mhm.
look at what they're actually mining and what's actually traveling down the pipes, it's not ore, it's like bits of scrap metal.
Oh, that's cool. I
Yeah.
like that.
Mm.
So
I
it's
thought
just
they
stuff
did a
like
good
that.
job in that scene of like they didn't have to like they did a good job of being like this town is unwelcoming in like a lot of different ways. First of all, they straight up said like this town is unwelcoming. There's a dead guy in the cage.
Yeah.
And then they did a lot of like other things that they might not have had to do, which was just like the way it was filmed. And I don't know. I thought that was all good. I
Yeah.
liked that town a lot.
You're saying a point, Zach, that I feel about this show too, which is the show does sometimes a little heavy-handed job at telling me what's happening, but also a really good job at showing me what's happening. And that's why like it gets frustrating when they're like, here's a line that tells me exactly what plot is happening right now. And it's like, but you just showed me that so well.
And that
Oh, I'm curious to hear what y'all think about that, because Mary Lou and I made that complaint frequently in our review of the episodes. Like, this is really unsubtle, this is really obvious. But I recorded some reviews with Vic Michaelis last Friday where Vic has not read the books either. And we went through their thoughts on the episodes. And none of the things I thought were obvious to Vic.
Yeah, that's so. I mean, like that's Shakespeare, right? Like the whole thing behind Shakespeare is so long because literally every plot point in Shakespeare is said 3 times by 3 different people because the assumption was that everyone was like drinking and partying and had a good time, and you had to say things over and over and over again, which is why all Shakespeare can be cut to basically like a third of its original length and tell the whole story.
I love that.
These are
I didn't
not
know that.
long. I'm trying to think of. I mean, there is some stuff that this series straight up does not tell you.
Yes.
Which is fine because for where we are in the story, for as someone who doesn't know anything about it, like the magic system is basically totally opaque to me at this point in time. There's like colors of rings that seems vaguely important, but not specifically how.
Oh, I want to hear what you guys think about the rings. Do the rings have power? Or are they just rings?
What is the relationship of the rings to the magic?
Now, when I see a ring, if the ring has power, I think the ring would have been more prominently featured. The ring to me seemed like a signifier. It seemed like it seemed like a friendship bracelet, right? If you are a blue wizard or whatever, you wear like a blue ring.
And Zach,
that is literally the perfect description of the ring.
Nailed it.
It's a friendship bracelet. I've never heard a more perfect description of the rings.
And Zach, just to clue you in on what's going on our screen right here, this isn't a spoiler. Those colors that wear the same friendship bracelets, that's what an Aja is.
Yes. Okay. That makes sense.
And the blue Aja.
I had heard you talking about like colors of Ajas when you were describing the game you were working on to me.
Yeah.
So I sort of assumed that. And then the first shot you see is all the red ladies chasing after the dragon guy who's talking to himself.
Well,
was
on that topic,
the first shot of this thing? I forget.
It's not, but I would love to go through now, kind of like episode by episode, and just get some thoughts. We'll prompt your memory, and I'd love to see what you think. So that is not the first shot of episode 1. The first shot of episode 1 is actually Moiraine, Rosamund Pike getting dressed and telling you about the history of him they called Dragon.
Yes, that seemed pretty.
Pretty
concise. And like they did a good job. I actually do like the way that they're sort of as Dresden said, I'd saying like they feel like they have been dispensing lore in a pretty easily digestible pace.
Yeah.
Like
the arrogance. That is our favorite line from that scene. Oh, everybody loves that freaking line. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. So how did y'all feel about like this as an intro scene? So Grant as a hazy view rememberer, Zach as a new reader. Yeah, Grant.
I just read the prologue. So the prologue was very fresh. I thought it was fine. I mean, I felt like from the previews, it seemed like they were going to make Moiraine the point of view character. And my opinion is they really didn't do that. They just made Rand not the point of view character, but then they didn't actually pick anybody's point of view. for the first episode, and I think that's part of why it feels a little shaky. And then I also just felt like the first episode was like totally noted to death. It felt like to me there was a lot of it that felt like, well, we have to do it in what you were talking about, like we have to do it and say it. Like the problem is then people don't actually know what's important, like while you're watching the show. If there's not like somebody says something and there's a bunch of silence, like the only time we get silence is like Maureen walks in and we have that stupid shot of land that you keep posting on Twitter, and like
a solid 17 seconds of land standing silently with his hood up.
And all of this is criticism in good faith. I should say.
Yeah. No, it's okay. This is a criticism safe zone.
Yes.
Yeah, it just felt like it was the one that I felt like most didn't know whether they wanted to be Lord of the Rings or whether they wanted to not be Lord of the Rings, whether they wanted to be Game of Thrones or not be Game of Thrones. And then like also just like felt sort of self-conscious about like the idea of starting this story in a small town and like letting us meet the people who live in the small town, like in their day-to-day lives. Like they were like, this is a small town where we shove our women off cliffs. And where we like
where the women shove the women off of cliffs. That's important
because the women are
very important.
Women have a lot of agency in the other women going off of cliffs.
Right.
So, Zach, how did you feel about like that? Did you watch the trailers or anything?
No.
So your first introduction to what was going on really was what they chose to show you. And how did you feel? Like, did you?
As per my previous comment about the women in red, I do not remember the opening shot of this series at all.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you what the first thing. I remember that her talking about like the dragon and he was bad and he broke the world. And then the ladies in red sort of followed it up and they were like, women, we do magic now. We get it done and you don't. And here's why. Then
the abort parts, yeah.
And that's sort of like what I remember. I could not tell you what I was actually looking at when that information came in.
Got it.
That was sort of like being, when it's a new world, you sort of are like just sort of taking it soft focus, taking it all in.
Right. Yeah.
Totally.
I'm with Grant. Like, I don't need it to be spelled out a billion times, but if you need me, like there's visual storytelling going on. So I have to just sort of be able to get it and not be like SAT prep studying the show while I'm watching it. Because if it demands that level of focus, like you're screwed. And that's why pilots are so hard. Particularly pilots that have the huge baggage of the sort of fandom that this one has. The split character thing didn't bump me as someone who hasn't read the books. It was just like, I don't know who's important. So if you're going to show me a bunch of people and be like, all these people are important, that's fine. I do think they did a weird foreshadowing of like Sword Guy. What's Sword Guy's name?
Lan.
Okay, Lan. Okay. So Sword Guy shows up in the tavern and my wife straight up is like, well, an evil wizard is here. Because everything about it is like, it's like black boots come out. It takes a long time to pan up to him.
His cowboy ass entrance.
And look, he looks great. So cool. Very dope. Don't really understand why they introduced him in that way. I mean, I guess people are scared of, but then they weren't scared of him. It was the lady.
Yeah.
It was like,
it's an interesting choice. So in the books, what most readers thought would be happening in that scene, because they released that little clip early in the books, the main youths who end up going on the journey with Maureen and Lan see a dark hooded rider in the woods. And like, that's the first thing we learn is like, oh, I saw this weird dark cloaked rider. Oh, I saw it too. What's going on?
Okay.
And so we thought they would have that. And then Lan shows up in the tavern with his hood up and we'd be like, oh, it's that dark hooded rider. But that's not what happens in the show.
Then it's like, psych, he's a sidekick. He's actually
Well, I think Zach, you nailed why they had this entrance. He has this scary ass, cowboy ass, high drama entrance. And you're like, oh damn, this guy is nobody to be trifled with, and then the whole crowd is like, fuck that guy, it's the woman. Right? She's the one who's really scary, and now we couldn't care less about Lan, which I think is communicating to the audience.
Which is a good job of like, this guy is very scary and everyone is ignoring him for this lady,
because
which should tell you how dangerous that she is.
Yeah, I think that was the purpose of this high drama and unintentionally high comedy scene.
Then they also did a thing though where like scary person who I thought had a cat mask and then turns out just has like a weird Tremors worm face. What is that person called?
That is a Murdral.
An eyeless in the parlance of the show so far.
Yes, a fade. Or
yes, they called them an eyeless, which is good because the word that you just said, Sarah, I'm gonna need you to repeat it one more time.
Oh, I can spell it for you.
Yeah. Put it on the banner.
MYRDDRAAL.
That is
so now it makes a lot more sense.
That is
so
the most high fantasy ass like. Some of that stuff is fine, right? But like,
have they even said Murdral in the show ever?
Not one time. Or if they have, I was like, this is nonsense. I have it. Oh my God. That's the sort of word that like me as a reader skips over.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, Madrigal. They're the Madrigals and they're
the Madrigals. Yep. That's so funny. Yeah. The eyeless.
They did a good job of making the eyeless scary. Yeah. They did a big scream. And
he is different from the books. Very different from the books. In the books, he's just like sort of a pale guy who has no eyes. So I think when you imagine that, that's terrifying. Like a pale guy with no eyes, no even eye sockets, just clean flesh. But I imagine that if you saw that in real life, it would look a little silly. So
I think it also would look a little like a White Walker. If you are like picturing a pale person on a horse, be like, oh, this is in fact like, yeah.
You know
Aren't the Murdral like the Nazgul? Like, wouldn't that be the direct comparison?
Yeah, well, whatever. That's what I think.
Fantasy tropes.
Yeah, definitely is like that's another big one.
What are y'all?
So they had to make them.
What are y'all's first impressions of our young adventurers that we meet in the town? So we can go in order. So we have Egwene is the girl who gets pushed off the cliff. How do you feel about Egwene?
I like Egwene. The speech with the braid that Egwene got before she was pushed off the bridge, I thought was deeply bad. It was
forever alone.
What's that?
Women are always alone.
It wasn't even that. It was just this braid represents this. Felt like, and I'm sure it's from the books and I'm sure it's whatever, but I was like, you actually don't need to tell me the significance of it as you do it, because I assume you're never going to get into it again. So just like braid her hair, they're clearly in the middle of a ritual of some sort, say something more interesting, and then push her off a cliff. Because like that line was again, like like I said, my bar for fantasy bullshit is like extremely low. Like I'm into it. Yeah. But that was a level of lore that like, it was like Tolkien-esque in a way that I do not care about. It's like it's too deep.
Yeah.
And it was also like not how a real ritual, that's not how you would phrase it.
And that ritual doesn't exist in the books.
Oh, great. Well, then I don't know why it's there.
Yeah, it
merely a signifier of coming of age. You get to braid your hair.
She also had these scars on her arm that wasn't clear to me that was from her getting pushed into the river. Part of me for a second was like, did they do something to her before? And the river thing was like, and then it wasn't, and they never mentioned it again. And I figured it out. But when I first, like, they didn't show her getting cut or bleeding, or they just showed her with like what looked like a very old scar.
So there is rumor of a 2-hour pilot. The hashtag Rafe cut. Amazon released the Rafe cut.
Release the Rafe cut.
Okay, her arm is bleeding, and
it would be way better at 2 hours. I would have really appreciated it.
Right?
Yeah. So there is some like behind the scenes footage of incredible sets that we didn't even see. So
incredible scenes.
Remind me, sorry, what platform is this airing on?
Amazon.
Time on Prime.
So I just watched the live action Cowboy Bebop pilot.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet. I'm excited.
It's great, but what struck me about it is because it's Netflix, it is twice as long as the episode that comes after it. Because it's Netflix, and it's like things can just be as long as they need to be. And I think that is a good development in television and storytelling. I think we're erring on the side of almost everything being a little bit longer than it needs to be, because it's just like, great, there's no time limit, so do whatever. Like, I don't need every television episode to be an hour long.
But a pilot?
Like, if you need to, great. Yeah.
So
it's a great idea.
Do you like Egwene? From what little you know of her? I
think at least for what we've seen so far, like first 4 episodes, Egwene is the one who most has her shit together. So I think I like her more than the other 3.
Yeah.
And Grant, do you like Egwene?
Yes, I'd rate her 2 of the 4. I put Egwene at 2.
Okay, so Grant,
she's your number 2.
Who's number 1 for you?
My number 1 is new Steel Stuff Matt Cawthon. I love Steel Stuff Matt Cawthon.
So Matt, Zach, if you don't remember, Matt is
Matt's the thief.
The trickster.
Yes.
In the books, he is not a thief. Well, we'll talk about that later. He doesn't start out a thief. But he's very much a trickster, very much mischievous, very much a pan figure.
To use the children's parlance, Matt is messy. Matt's extremely messy.
Yeah.
He's extremely messy. Always has been. Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about Matt. Matt has. Sorry, Grant.
Continue. I'd love Grant. Why is he your number 1? Before Zach proceeds to tear him down, build him up for us.
I just think it's a lot more. I mean, I'm still comparing things to my recent read of Eye of the World / the one I'm not done with, but like I feel like he's like more dynamic. He sort of like he has taken that sort of chaos agent banner from Tom, who's not in the first couple episodes, and like I feel like he also has like a really good rapport with the characters, where like he is the one who's the most messy, but he's also the one they go to for advice, and that like I don't know, I've always really enjoyed that sort of dynamic. Like they all trust him and they feel like he knows what's going on, and at the same time they're like, this dude's out of control and he's in a lot of pain at all times.
Yeah. And Zach, what did you not enjoy about Matt?
No, I think Grant won me. Like, here's the thing. I'm comparing him to the other 3, right? Yeah. And like, he is for sure the most interesting. He also does some stuff that is like the most cliche fantasy, like touch nothing. Oh, by touch nothing, do you mean go to this very specifically magic looking dagger and pull that out of a, like, if there was ever like a big shining, like, do not press this red button sign. And like, I get it. He's like poor and he's trying to sell stuff to go back. But like, after being chased by supernatural creatures, like that level of let's split up the party in this haunted room where there's like we're all being murdered one by one is like TV and movie logic that just really bumps me. Everything else that he's done is like fine. I like him more. He's more interesting than the other 2. Gentlemen.
Zach, do you find him sympathetic?
Yeah, I think they have done a good job of being like his family is clearly like his dad is like useless and his mom is broken and he is the one who is in charge of his whole family. And I think they do a good job of laying out that backstory, which is, you know, I think a pretty accurate portrayal of like why people turn to crime. They don't do it because it's like crime is fun. They do it because like they have to.
It's very funny you say that, because that's one of the big scandals about Matt Cawthon as a character. In the books, he is simply crime is fun. He has a very lovely background. His family is healthy, and he has absolutely no trauma. He's just a miscreant. And in the show, they've given him this sort of traumatic background to explain his,
multiple bad decision making.
Yeah. And that made a lot of people really upset. Me personally, I loved it. But it's very different from the book. So I like to hear you say that, oh yes, all of this makes sense because of his backstory.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it's so weird, right? Because what all of these stories sort of ask you to wrestle with is like, what would you behave like when your entire worldview gets shattered? Right. Like this is a village that has stayed out of, by the sound of it, basically everything for the last hundreds of whatever years.
300 years, yeah.
Most of these people, some of them know what the big monsters are, but it seems like most of them don't. Or they've like heard of them, but they've never seen them or whatever. So like, I don't know. It feels like the speed with which people sort of get on board that something extremely bad is happening is occasionally frustrating, mainly with our like red-haired hero boy. Like,
so speaking of our red-haired hero boy, do you remember his name? Just curious.
Yeah, it was an R, right? He's got an R name.
Yeah,
got an R name.
Is he?
Keep going. What's
You're
next?
most of the way there.
Is he Rafe? No,
He's
Rafe. That's close. Rafe is close. That's the showrunner.
Is he Ray?
It is R.A. That is true.
Right. His name is Randall. Is Randall?
His name
Oh,
is.
Oh, it's Rand. His name is Rand.
Yeah, nice.
I was doing a joke, but yes, his name is Rand.
His last name is Thor. So
he is Randall Thor.
Fantasy name I've ever heard of. Like more than Gwaine. Rand Al Thor. Also, like very, very bold to be like, his last name is actually Thor.
Yeah,
it's all Thor, but yeah. No, I feel you.
Yeah. His name is Randall Thor.
Hello, I'm Randall Thor.
His name is Randall
of Randall Thor's Shipping and Packing Meats Company.
What are your first impressions of Randall Thor?
Randall Thor just wants to get. Randall Thor is like my cousin. God bless her. Randall Thor just wants to get married.
Yeah,
he just wants to get married.
Look, and he's clearly in love with Gwaine, and she doesn't want to get married. She wants to talk to the wind, and that's he doesn't get to do that. But he just wants to build a house and be like a simple little farm boy, which is unusual for fantasy protagonists, right? Normally they want to like go out and be cool. They made a big deal of his dad having a very specific mark on his sword that then he never followed up on.
Yeah.
And no one seemed to ask about.
Hashtag release the Rafe cut.
Does he
hashtag release the Rafe cut?
Does he know that his
sword?
That was the first. I'll tell you from the books at least. I don't know what there'll be in the show. In the books, when his dad pulls out the sword to fight the Trollocs in that scene, that is the first Rand learns that his dad even owns a sword. He's like,
I was going to say, he seems like his dad is good at fighting. Yeah. He seems to just be like, yeah, of course my dad's good at fighting. Yeah. All of our dads are good at fighting. It did
my dad could beat a deer Trolloc.
But it was like he was fighting in such a way that's like, oh, this guy has a past that we don't know about of some kind.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Never follows up on it. Doesn't ask a single question about it.
Which was our big, like, huge, that bumped for us. Is like, wouldn't you ask?
I mean,
wouldn't you be like, what the heck?
Counterpoint. The timeline seems to be dad gets hurt.
Yeah.
He's like, get my dad to town. Dad gets healed, at which point someone is like, we have to go now. Like we're leaving currently. That seems to all take place over the course of a night. And then the next morning, his dad is like walking around and seems much better. Yeah. I don't know. It was a question that I had as a viewer, but
it's a legitimate question.
It's probably in the Rafe cut.
You did identify that it is a very important thing, though, that heron marked blade.
They showed me.
And
the fact will tell you, the camera got real close.
And he paused too. He was like,
we call it an insert.
Insert of the bird sword. I'm like, I want to know about bird sword.
Yeah, the bird sword.
Bird sword is very important.
That there is a scene in the books that we don't get in this episode 1. There is a scene of Rand actually bringing his dad to the town, like to get him healed. where he learns some stuff that we haven't learned yet in the show.
Got it.
That we're not going to talk about. I think in the chat, somebody was wondering in the chat if they could talk about book spoilers. I think you guys can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. Grant and Zach, maybe don't keep your eyes on the chat too much.
If you want me to see your comments in the chat, then don't put it in there. But if you're going to do that, that's fine. I'll just close the chat.
Yeah, we'll pull up comments.
Sarah, you tell me what I need to hear from the chat. How's that?
Yes.
But I know the one big spoiler. So
well, we're not talking about the one big spoiler, Grant.
Yeah,
how do I close the chat?
Grant.
Is it even private?
You just
go to the private chat.
Great. I'm gonna chat with Jess, Sarah, and
Just
Mary
us.
and Grant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat agreeing that we will get that scene later. I agree with you. If you saw our stream from last week, I have some predictions about when we're gonna get that scene and what we're gonna learn and what it's gonna be.
Is it kissing?
Yeah.
There's absolutely no kissing.
Rand's gonna kiss his dad.
In the books, Rand kisses his dad. 100%. That's what happened.
Make
like
out.
so much.
Dad.
And I'm furious it's not in the show.
Normalize pushing your dad.
It was why I kept reading, was because they made out.
Yeah, Robert Jordan really anticipated the incest porn trend that has seemed to sweep the world in the last few years.
In the nation.
Yeah,
so we're not going to talk about what that scene that we missed is, because it's we sort of feel like we are going to get it later.
Can I tell you what it is? Because I probably know.
Yeah, I mean, you're allowed to predict whatever you want. We would love to hear.
The scene that when he's carrying him to get healed.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's like, Dad, what's with the bird sword? And the dad is like, listen, I'm a bird sword warrior, and I always have been. And I'm hiding here, protecting you with my bird sword. And guess what? You're going to be a bird sword warrior too. And Rand's like, I don't think so. And then he gets pulled away on a magical adventure. And he does become a bird sword warrior.
We said no spoilers. Zach,
You
said
you hadn't read the book, Zach.
Which is why the second Wheel of Time book is called Wheel of Time, the Bird Sword Warrior.
Bird Sword
Warrior. Mm-hmm.
What are your feelings about Rand? Because I'll tell you, like, Vic came away from even the first episode, but solidly the first 3 episodes. Vic hates Rand.
Yeah, he's the most frustrating character to watch until episode 3, where he sort of gets his shit together.
I want to say about Rand, I think this is sort of part of my complaint in general, is like, that it feels like we're turning things up to 10 in every scene, and we don't have to. Like, I hate to reference film school, but one of my professors would always say, like, at the end of a scene, you know, in a short film scene, like, people bring in these scenes where people are just like fucking screaming at each other, and it's like, hey, these people have to be friends in the next scene. Like, there has to be a reason for them to get to the next scene. And like, especially the way the first 2 episodes were directed, it felt like every scene was like, why are these people still talking to each other in the next scene? Like, every one of them. So you're just laughing at the flamingo sword. I think that hit Rand the hardest, because like there are a bunch of scenes where Rand is like, Moraine is evil, and then the next scene they're like on the thing. And I don't even think it's necessarily the writing. Like, if he had just muttered that, or if he had been, you know, then it would play as indecision, and now it's playing as like just an inconsistent character.
This is what I mean, though. This is part of that problem. Like, this is the to set a different problematic property. This is the Harry Potter book 5 Order of the Phoenix problem, right? Where like Harry has gone through all of these traumatic events in very formative years. And it's like either just catching us up to him now, or they've just not been writing it and now they're writing it in. So like when something like this event happens to your town, it's really, really, really hard. Like, part of me is like, just get on board. Like, the wizard lady just saved everyone's asses. So when she's like, we have to go, you listen to the wizard lady. But then there's part of me, it's like, well, this is your whole, like, would you leave everyone you know behind? Like, it's complicated, but it's still, to Grant's point, it's still frustrating to watch.
It's very interesting, Zach, that you say that, because Robert Jordan, there's an interview with Robert Jordan that plays at the end of every audiobook. And one of the things he says specifically is like, one of the things I was interested in, why I wanted to write fantasy, is because I was so tired of reading stories where a wizard comes into a country town and tells these small town kids, like, you have to come with me, because I grew up in the country, and in my experience, country people wouldn't just say, okay.
Yeah,
So
they don't. No,
I'm
they
glad
have.
that translates, because I was worried that that did not translate.
Oh no, they make it very clear that Rand does not want to go.
Yeah, I think
he tries to stop going at multiple iterations.
Yeah.
To Rand WO2's point, like I don't think that Rand should fully trust Moraine. I think, why is there a scene where he's like, I don't trust this evil witch lady, and then the next scene, like, we just act like he didn't say that.
Something
like why does he leave the village? Like, I don't buy that choice. Why they all left the village?
That's right. He did not see her save the village. He was busy, but like he could imply, right? Like also, I did like that she pulled down a house to save people, and I do wonder, did she check if anyone was like hiding?
There were 100% people in that house.
That was like, she was like, we're gonna smush 10 to save 100,
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of trauma informative years, how did you feel about Perrin, the blacksmith?
Perrin's now dead girlfriend is arguably more interesting than Perrin. Wife, yes, sorry. Wife who was maybe with child? I couldn't tell.
My theory, at least,
we don't know either.
She had a miscarriage.
Oh, that would make sense.
But we don't know. We don't know. But
that's why she's so angry at him, and
that's why the wisdom might know more about her situation than the average person. You know, she says, "Go be with your wife."
She looked cool. She had a lot of pierced ears, which told me that she was important in a fantasy context.
So
if you have a lot of ear piercings, I'm going main character.
Yeah,
and keep your eye on that one.
Now not. But
working the forge by herself, big guns.
I think that actor is doing a great job. I don't think they have given him a lot to do.
Yeah.
Well, rather, I think they've given him one big thing to do, which is mourn that he killed his own wife.
Yeah,
which sort of is kind of really big.
Mary Lou, I think we can tell Zach what you're hinting at here.
Oh, okay.
I don't think we have to dance around it.
In the books, he is not married. He does not have a wife, and he does not kill her. He doesn't kill anybody.
Kill the wife that he doesn't have.
Yeah, that's a made-up character.
He does not kill the wife that he doesn't have.
Okay.
That is a made-up character that they inserted into this show, seemingly just for Perrin to kill her.
I think here's the other reason why it's kind of smart, is because he is sort of exemplifying the life that Rand wants. He's already married. He's already starting his family, and these two are like allegedly. They seem like they're supposed to be exactly the same age, right?
Yeah, they're just not. But yeah, they're supposed to be the same age.
Okay,
they're supposed to be exactly the same age.
Yes. I mean, I buy it. By film standards, yeah, sure, they're all 16 years old or whatever they're supposed to be. 20.
I do want to address, because the comments are going wild with the debate that's been raging, and this is not a spoiler because Layla is a new character, so we're theorizing along with everyone else here. There is a theory that Layla was a dark friend, which is what Dana is in episode 3. And I want to say to chat, I really don't buy it. And if she turns out to be a dark friend, I think it will be a bad choice on the creators.
I mean, I think the miscarriage is sort of like, in retrospect, everything that they are showing clocks for me about that.
It comes largely from like one split-second scene when Perrin does do his wife chop. She appears to be standing there with her hammer raised, and people are like, she's going to crush him with the hammer, and that's because she's a dark friend. I feel like they're in the middle of a Trolloc fight, and she's just as adrenaline amped up as he is, and she's just going to help him crush that Trolloc he's axing.
Yeah, I think she's just too close. She just got too close, and then he was going, wet and wild with that axe. He was in a blood rage or whatever.
He was in a blood rage.
And she was too close to him being in that, like...
Right.
he does like 7 or 8 chops, and then she's right behind him. So like,
Yeah.
I wish her sort of spatial awareness, I think, could have saved her life. But
Yeah.
again, like there was a lot going on in there. My wife and I were both like, how many Trollocs? Is that right?
Trollocs,
That's
nice,
How many
nailed it.
Trollocs are in this room? It's filmed in a way that is like
There's no way to know.
At first I'm like, there's one. Then I was like, oh no, there's definitely at least 2. And then when I see bodies of stuff, like, have there been like 6? Did they kill 6 Trollocs in this room? I don't know.
I don't know either.
They did a great job.
I think Layla takes out at least a couple because she is a fucking badass.
She's bad.
And
Yeah.
with a hammer.
Now
So
she's
a lot
gone.
of people think she's a dark friend. I know people think it. I think people think it because they want to rationalize the horrible violence Perrin has committed on his behalf, so that they can feel better about their boy. Which I get the instinct. I think it would be cheap.
Yeah, I don't think there's any evidence for it except for her weird position. And it wasn't that weird if you think about how she was going to try and come help him with the Trolloc. He literally just killed.
I'm all in on the miscarriage theory. I think they wanted specifically him to chop her right there, like in her stomach. And I think
so. She has to have her arms not there for the axe to hit. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, it read like she was coming to help to me watching it. Movie read, visually read.
Yeah.
Something that the other thing that both my wife and I, while watching this, thought was like, these guys all have like scary secrets happening to them, and it's very clear that Moraine is the one that would be able to like tell them what these things are, and they don't tell her.
Correct.
Like, I don't understand what the benefit of is. Like, I have wolf poison. I have poison that makes wolves follow me around, or like Trolloc poison that the wolves love to smell and follow, or whatever. And he doesn't mention it. Rand is
the same in the books.
Rand is like, I threw up a bat, and I don't actually want to tell anyone that.
That was wild. That was really wild.
That was horror. That was some body horror that I was
gross.
not expecting.
To throw up the bat. Yeah.
And I'm like, if I threw up a bat and then there was a wizard lady with me, I'd be like,
I just threw up a bat. Oh my god, please help me.
Tell me what's going on. I just threw up a bat. You have to tell me why.
It's the exact same thing in the books. Like, these things happen and they're like, one thing we cannot do is tell Moraine.
But it is like, why aren't you telling? Like,
it comes back to what you identified earlier, Zach, when they enter the inn, and the fact that everyone is terrified of her. It's something that I don't think they've explained enough in the books, in the show, because in the books we get everyone's POV, so we hear them, what they're thinking. People are fucking terrified of Aes Sedai. So like Aes Sedai, to these small town people, they weren't even sure they were real. Like, they're basically just characters from like fairy tales where they're almost always the bad guy.
Okay.
They're like very scary. Like, so they're terrified of Moraine. They don't trust her.
But also, I just threw up a bat.
Yeah, right.
No, like,
good point.
So like in like my hierarchy of things I'm scared about, there's like the wizard lady who I've heard bad stories about that I don't trust, and I just threw up a bat.
Right.
And like that's gonna go right to the top of that list.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
I do think, like, to talk about Moraine. Yeah, Team Tell Moraine. But I think also, like, they're running away from Moraine as Gandalf comparisons. This is something I texted Sarah. She is a wizard who comes to a small town and collects a band of innocent travelers for a great adventure. Like, she's written in response to Gandalf. I think there's no way Robert Jordan was not thinking about Gandalf when he wrote Moraine. And he was like, what if people reacted to Gandalf the way they react to women with immense amounts of power? Like, that is who Moraine is as a character to me.
That's great.
So like, why not give her the staff? Why not give her those Gandalf beats where they are like,
she had a staff.
Yeah. And like, why not give her the like, or why not give them the like, this is the furthest I've ever been from the Shire moment? Like, that moment happens in the books in a different way, but it's sort of the same. Like, I think we're running from some parts of fantasy comparisons that the books are like trying to actively dialogue with.
Well, he was forced to make book one more Lord of the Ringsy. The publishers were like, this needs to be more like Lord of the Rings, because the book came out in 1990. the fantasy ecosystem was not then what it is now, and the
It was pretty
publishers
much
were like,
only Lord of the Rings.
like there was like Ursula Le Guin and there were other people out there, but the publishers were like,
Popularly,
if
yeah.
this isn't Lord of the Rings, people aren't going to want to read it.
Hmm.
And so book 1 is very much like Lord of the Rings.
Well,
And then he's allowed to diverge.
I guess they did an okay job because there were a lot of books.
Yeah.
Totally.
So where do you rank the four to Viren, which is a word you heard but probably didn't remember?
Absolutely not. What did you just
Yeah.
say?
Yeah.
Taviren. Great.
Great.
Moraine says in the third scene, right after the Red Ladies crush that guy, she says there were rumors of 4 Taviren in a town.
Okay. And those are, from my knowledge, just like 20-year-olds who may or may not be the dragon reincarnated. They're
That's
the right
good enough for now.
They're the right age.
Yeah.
That's good enough for now. Absolutely.
They're
Important people.
There may be magic 20-year-olds.
Sure.
Great.
Yep.
So how would you rank them? Because Grant, we know yours is so far Matt and then Egwene.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, Egwene, Per, and Rand.
Okay, Zach.
Egwene is the one who is acting the most like I would like to think that I would act in this situation, but I don't know that that's necessarily true. Matt is the most interesting, and then the other two have nothing interesting to do other than be sort of like a hero and be sort of sad about their wife that they killed.
Yeah.
And to have wolf secrets that they
Wolf
don't want
secrets.
to.
The wolf
Secrets, I have to say, are interesting.
The wolf secrets might be important later.
I'm sure it is.
Keep an
but,
eye
like,
on those wolf
they're
secrets.
I
not
don't
to,
think
like,
so.
like
It's
they're
just a
making,
fun little
they'd
gag.
be like, are the wolves? First of all, the wolves came up and they're licking him, and then he's scared. Same wolves. Later, he's like, now I have to run from these wolves.
Well, in his life, wolves eat people, right? Like
In
wolves
mine
are
too.
terrifying.
In my day to day, that's
Yeah,
why.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that.
That's fair
Yeah.
enough.
But then when wolves lick my, the wolf
Lick your
poison out or
wounds,
whatever
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, they're tied in third for me. It's like the first two are tied in first, and the other two are tied in second.
Okay.
And how do you feel about the kind of the fifth Emmons Fielder, Nynaeve?
Who? Which one's that?
Nynaeve is
The wisdom.
The wisdom. I like her.
Mm-hmm.
I thought she did a good job of cleaning that big magic bathtub.
Yeah.
And,
She did.
I thought she had like a really. I thought her story about her master who was turned away from the White Tower. Is that what it's
White
called?
Tower.
I thought was like pretty informative for her, the way that she interacted with Moraine, and also like wasn't as scared of Moraine in a way that like a village leader needed to act, whether they are actually feeling that way or not.
Yeah.
And then she tried to kill the sword boy, which was great and also surprising to him, which I thought was fun. He was like, you would never. Ah, you did. I can't believe you did. I'll bonk you out.
I love that part.
Yeah, or as Vic refers to it, the White Castle.
Yeah,
that's funny.
I liked her. I also, I don't know. Moraine and Sword Boy are Moraine and Lan. Which one is it? Lan. Moraine and Lan are, I think, to me, the most interesting because like they've told us the least about them and they're the coolest. That's just my brain being like, yeah, let's get into it.
On the subject of Moraine and Lan, what did you think about the their bath time scene?
Yeah,
I love it.
It ruled. Yeah, it was great. I was so happy it was there.
I love that it was like.
What did you get from that? What did you get about their relationship, about their characters from the bathtub scene?
It was like sort of open because at first I was like, this guy is her butler. There's no like this is just the time. Like everyone is bathing together. And then later on it's like, okay, they're both like this was like a bath scene that was sort of equally full and devoid of sexual tension. This is just clearly like normal bath time for the two of them. But for like us, we're like hot people in a bath together. Right? Like we're watching it because we're not that.
And the way she made the steam pop up. Wow.
So, like, what do you think is the nature of their relationship now?
I think they're probably like he's like butlers with benefits, right?
Yeah.
Butlers with benefits.
Like his job is basically, and like a little bit of this is colored by the fact that Sarah, you did tell me when we were talking about the game you were developing, it's like, look, there's the wizard ladies and then there's the sword boys that like protect the wizard ladies.
Magical bodyguard boyfriends, yeah.
Yeah, and it actually hasn't been clear to me yet that he is magical in any way, other than he is like very good at sorting around.
Yeah.
So
he does not have. He doesn't have his own magic. He just has magical benefits from being connected to her. I'll tell you that.
And no way, Murasu. There's absolutely no way. There are so many weird things that they put on actors to make them look totally naked from behind, when they're absolutely not naked at all from the front.
I'll tell you, there's adhesive involved,
or like a very weird little drawstring,
or a little pouch. There's a drawstring or some sticky stuff.
None of them are good, and you know that your film set needs like a bigger budget if it is one that is rented from somewhere and not purchased specifically for you.
One of my close friends.
But you
Grant,
feel like they're what'd you say, Grant?
One of my close friends' first job in CGI was CGIing out those
the green screen, the G string, green screen G string.
So it's fully possible he is wearing a little like green thong in that scene, and somebody had to go through and remove it.
I don't think he's wearing. I mean, maybe, but I think
I think he's wearing the dick sack
front. Yeah.
The sock.
The cock sock, as it is sometimes colloquially called.
I don't know why they didn't go with dick sack. It was right there.
Right there. Dick sack. It's a sack. Your dick doesn't rhyme. Doesn't even share the same letters. It's perfect. And what do you want?
Yeah, exactly.
We wanted to ask you about the vibes of that scene because in the books and in all of the media previous to the show, they've been really clear that like the relationship between Lan and Moiraine is not sexual remotely. They are just like partners. They are intimately tied together. Their souls are bonded, but it's not sexual whatsoever. But like you said, Zach, like the fact of the matter is it's two of the hottest people on planet Earth naked in a steamy bathtub.
There's
and
no
it's
way.
just the horniest scene.
Yeah.
It's like so horny.
But that's the weird thing.
We know that they added that scene to show that, like, look how calm and platonic these two people are. They can just take a bath together. And it feels so bad, right?
Yeah. Listen, it's because you can't be like...
They shot it really sexy.
It's so sexy.
Maybe they wrote that scene for that reason.
We have a lot of comments on our... We have a lot of comments on our reviews where we talk about this in depth from, like, Europeans.
How much depth?
From... a lot of that from Europeans on our YouTube channel who are just like, it's funny because, you know, as someone from Finland or wherever, where
from
we
a
have,
not
like,
sexually repressed nation,
from a much healthier nation, this didn't read as sexual to me at all.
Sure, no, and that's what I was saying was like both deeply sexual and non-sexual, because like the actors, there is no sort of room, like I don't feel like they're about to do anything, but they're both hot and they're sitting in a hot tub together, and it's because they do it all the time. So it's like the subtext is that like these two hotties are so used to being naked near each other that like whether it is horny or not, it's like deeply hot.
Like, but I think it actually was horny. Like I think those actors were giving like very steamy eyes, and they just have good chemistry, maybe not sexual, but good chemistry that it's impossible not to read a little bit of sparks flying. I loved it. Regardless, I loved the scene.
I think
love that it's there. Never take it out.
I want more, like to me, more of that.
Yeah, I want more for sure.
More, way more.
I just thought like.
I also like this comment from a Sorisica Aggressiva. It shows them on equal footing and that he's not just her errand boy.
Yeah,
sure.
By that, totally.
Sorry, Grant. I interrupted.
I don't think it's that big of a departure for the show to be like, yeah, they sleep together in this one. In this one, they're gonna sleep together. Like I was like, oh, that's the direction we're going with Moraine and Lan in the show, is that they hook up sometimes.
It's not though, because I'll tell you,
not what they're doing.
Moraine is a total lesbo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
We like almost have that like totally confirmed that show Moraine is not straight, and they have said over and over and over and over again.
But Book Moraine is
bi,
but seems to heavily prefer women. Show Moraine.
Yeah, but it's her sword. It's Sword Butler. Like
Sword Butler.
Like the thing is, like those two are so close that regardless of what her like it seems like he loves her, whether that is like sexual or not. He is like devoted,
he's dedicated to her,
devoted to her in a way that probably like carries over or doesn't, but doesn't really matter because like that part is more important than like the sexuality part.
There are other Aes Sedai who very, very canonically have lots of casual sex with their sword boys.
Okay.
It's just not the case in this relationship.
And we know that for the series as well.
We don't know that for the series as well, but we assume. No, more in the marketing we do. Yeah.
Yeah. They've said over and over and over again.
Sure, but
Lan and Moraine are so close, but not sexual.
But season 2, when they realize they're wrong, I'm assuming these characters make it to season 2. I guess
It's already filming.
They've already filmed season 2.
Oh, great. Well, then they have lots of hot tub budget, probably.
Yeah. So I was just curious to get your thoughts on hot tub scene, and then now I would love to hear your thoughts. I don't know how long we have from each of you, BTW.
I keep checking the work Slack, and I will let you know if something comes up. I'm monitoring the work Slack right now, and I'll let you know.
Yeah. What did you feel about the Trolloc attack and that whole scene?
Fantasy battles are hard, right? They're like really, really, really tricky. It's why fantasy shows so often go all the way to their third act before they show you the monster at all, just because it's so hard to do convincingly. I thought these were fine. Like I thought.
What did you think of the monsters? What did you think of the Trollocs?
Yeah, big scary Minotaur pigs.
Yeah, that's about right.
Great. Sure, why not? Yeah.
I wish I was more scared of the Trollocs. I felt like Trollocs were gone, and everyone was just sort of like, "Oh, the Trollocs are gone now." I'm trying to start like, there was no sort of shell shock, like, holy shit! Like I thought that thing would like didn't exist. We just sort of moved right on to like, to Rand showing up and everybody being like, "You cool? You cool? Okay, we're cool. All right, great."
That's a hashtag release the rave cut problem. I think like we just didn't have time. We went so immediately from the 14-minute battle scene to we have to leave. Why would we leave with you? You have to. Okay.
we also spent a not insignificant amount of time at that party too.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Right?
Like dancing.
Yeah.
And then the guy in the cart who's like definitely evil, and they like went sort of over the top to be like, look at this man smiling during a murderous attack and then walking slowly out of the frame. Like
he walks into the darkness where there will be more Trollocs. Like it's not safer over there.
Not worried at all about the Trolloc attack.
Yeah,
delighting in it.
Speaking of men who are over the top evil, let's move into episode 2, where the opening scene is our White Cloak friend, Eamon Valda, the questioner, eating a sharp bird. What did you think of Eamon Valda?
Scary as hell.
Yeah.
Scary guy, bad guy.
Yeah.
I thought he is a I mean, it's that weird trope of like the twisted clergy, right? Like I feel like it's scary because it's scary in the way that the Inquisition is scary. I mean, it's literally the Inquisition, I imagine, more or less. It seems to be his.
Pretty literally, yeah.
What was he eating?
A sharp bird.
A sharp bird. A tiny bird that's sharp.
I was pretty intrigued by the sharp bird. I was trying to imagine what the sharp bird would taste like.
It's called an ortolan. I learned about this after the show came out. It is
Sure.
it is like a tiny little swallow that it is a delicacy in parts of Western Europe where they catch the bird and they basically drown the bird in alcohol and then it like preserves in the alcohol
I can
and
actually eat
then
this bird. This is
you
real,
eat
Eat
like
it.
that
in our
bird.
You eat it
universe.
whole. It is a real
Wait,
food
sorry,
item.
Grant. You heard the description and you were like, "Yes, let me seek that out."
I want to eat the bird.
No. I don't want to eat the bird. I don't want to eat the bird. What are you guys talking
Really,
about?
because you just typed something into the private chat that I think you meant to Google, which is where to eat the magic bird,
Magic bird near me.
where to eat the
Pain-
small
pain bird.
alcohol bird.
Pain bird. Best logs for birding witches is my next search.
That was sort of weird, right? It was like that he wanted to watch, like he was going to eat dinner and watch this woman burn alive. Like,
Yeah.
regardless of like what you think of your job,
Mhm.
anyone that has smelled like burning hair, let alone burning flesh, like knows that it is set the scene for a lovely dinner. It does not.
Yeah.
So,
But this is a
but
man
like,
who enjoys having his mouth cut up by sharp birds. So
I guess, I mean,
Freak.
if you're supposed to be like, this guy's evil, mission accomplished.
Right?
yeah.
We did it, Joe.
Mary Lou
You
and
did
I,
it, Joe.
He's
we
scary.
think that scene's a little over the top. That
Yeah,
was
A
kinda
little
for
over the
sure.
top. I personally did not love how he was monologuing to no one. Because nobody's there except for the woman who's
Mhm.
bound and gagged and about to be burned to a crisp. So it seemed a little villain tropey of like,
Yeah.
let me tell you my evil philosophy.
Yeah, it
before
was
you
that
swoop in.
extremely.
It which I mean I love how evil he is. I don't have a problem with anything he did. I merely have a problem with how they had him speak to the air, aka the audience, about
Yes.
it.
He's doing. I think the actor is doing a great job. I think
I
the
think he's so
script is a
good.
little bit like heavy. So here's a question that I have though. For when he shows up later, he's a
Yeah.
questioner, right?
I have this question too. I think
He
it's
hunts-
the same question.
He hunts Aes Sedai,
Correct.
who
Yeah.
cannot lie.
Exactly.
So it
Correct.
seems
Yep,
like
yep,
the
yep,
questioning
yep.
should always be actually just one question, and the question is, "Hey, are you or is anyone with you an Aes Sedai?" Because it feels like
mean-
that would sort of solve. That would be like the whole
You'd
thing,
think.
right?
You'd think we had
You'd
the same
think.
question.
Yeah,
There's
and
not a book reason. I was like, there's got to
There
be
is not a
some
book reason. Okay, so the
no.
loose book reason is White Cloaks don't believe that Aes Sedai can't lie. To that I
Oh,
say
okay.
they would still ask it. If the
okay.
Aes
Yeah.
Sedai doesn't say she's not an Aes Sedai, you burn her. If she says I'm not an Aes Sedai, you say, yeah, you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that
So-
feels like the question to ask. I
Right?
mean, because this world
So-
has this show has not made it clear. Well, I guess they did say like, "What do you know about the Aes Sedai?" And Gawain was like, "Here's some stuff," and Moran's like, "Actually, it's like this."
Her name is Egwene
Gawain.
because Gawain is another
a different character.
In this one, have I met them yet?
No. But
Okay,
you will.
so this is Egwene.
Yeah.
Yes.
Egwene, who evolves into Gawain.
Yeah.
Who evolves
exactly.
into Moraine.
You have to have a stone. But yeah, you've stone you cross and it's a certain type of day. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
With a bird stone evolution. Great.
Mhm. With a bird warrior stone. Yeah.
Yeah. The white cloaks, is that what they're called?
The White
Mhm.
Cloaks.
The white
yeah.
cloaks, yes.
What is that also a thing from?
White Cloaks?
Yeah.
Is it also a thing from something?
the
Something.
KKK? I don't know. Like
There's
Yes,
there's
very
a
good,
something
Mirlo.
cloaks town watch and something. There's like a cloaks something
gold
cloaks into
cloaks.
the town
The gold
watch.
cloaks.
The gold cloaks are Game of
in
Thrones,
Game
and
of Thrones.
the
Yeah.
red cloaks are the Adventure Zone.
Mhm.
Is that what they're called? I don't know. All right. We love a color and a cloak. It's good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
These
We're
are
all
the
picking
white
the
cloaks.
same cloak to go do our evil deeds.
Yeah.
Or good deeds. I'm not really.
Yeah. These are the White Cloaks. So that scene is not a scene that's in the books. That interaction between at least Moraine and those White Cloaks doesn't happen. They interact with other Aes Sedai. But the White Cloaks are definitely powered up in the show. So there's a lot that we don't understand about them either.
Big time.
Powered up, like their faction is not as big as this series is making it seem to be.
The faction politically is very big, and they're definitely huge bullies who have a lot of power when they're dealing with normal people. But compared to an Aes Sedai, the White Cloaks are mostly kind of just buffoons.
Powerless. They
So
are
you would
not
think that if
so much of
Moiraine-
a threat.
If Moiraine wanted to, she would be like, I'm just going to kill all these guys right now.
She could easily kill them all. But if
Except she can't because she's not supposed to.
So I think what would have happened in the books, the scene felt a little contrived to me because Lan would have known they were coming much earlier, and they would have gone around them. They wouldn't have even interacted.
But we have to show them because they're important. So
we have to show them because they're important. Yeah.
And I loved that scene. I want to be really clear. Like I do find some very basic tenets of that scene to be don't make a ton of sense, but I loved that scene. The way he touches her is so deeply chilling. The way he talks to Jeffrey Bornhall, the other White Cloak captain, you know, you can see the difference between the questioners and the children. I loved that scene, but I do wish that they had interrogated it as closely as we are and come up with a solution, because it feels irresponsible to not have.
Well, Mary Lou, did you read Brandon Sanderson's comments on the episodes?
I read the comments on the first one. I don't think I read his comments on that scene specifically. What did he say?
Did he consult on this?
So Brandon Sanderson wrote the last 3 books.
He said he thinks this. I've read other works of Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah, so he was a script consultant. He basically he gave notes on the first drafts, and his notes on the first, he wrote comments on episode 2, and he said, yeah, the initial version of that scene, I came away and I told the writers right here, what you've set up. He would just ask her if she was a Aes Sedai. The fact that he doesn't is weird. And I think that problem still remains.
Yeah, he's very much subtweeting this isn't my fault. I told him.
yeah. So it is interesting, but it's mostly the fact that we never in the books see a White Cloak kill an Aes Sedai.
Ever.
It's intimated that they say stuff like, "Look, even a crossbow bolt in the back can kill you if you're not expecting it." So it's they could do it.
Oh yeah, this guy's already killed 9 of them or something.
Yeah. So that's 7. His villain level is way
higher.
Yeah.
Way more dangerous, way more of a threat than we thought from the books.
Correct.
So that's really interesting. And now he's super evil, right? He kills ladies and birds and eats them whole.
Yeah, he's not good. I don't like him.
Yeah. So that happens. That's a whole thing. And then they go to so then we get that scene where Moiraine is talking to Egwene and it kind of explaining the power. And did you
the scene with her and the stone, the blue stone, and they're looking at the stone and you hear the water rushing. What did you think of that scene? What did you learn from that scene? Or nothing?
I mean, guys, I'm here for the magic. I want,
right.
This, I want more of this.
Right.
The only thing that was confused, she was the first 2 were me. The third one was you. I was I don't actually know what you're talking about.
Yeah, neither did we.
Three what? 3 things that you felt over the course of that?
Yeah. It's a great line in the books.
It's a great line in the books.
Great line in the books.
The way they did the CGI.
Yeah.
Is it supposed to be she has 3 goes at channeling magic?
It's supposed to pulse.
It's supposed to, the blue is supposed to flash 3 times or glow 3 times.
It does that, but that's an editing problem, right? Because it seems it starts glowing and then never stops.
Yeah.
It needed to, and I watched this on a fairly new TV. So it needed to go fully dark and then pop up again and then go to this is if they want to keep that line in there, if they want to keep that moment, this is an edit issue.
Yeah.
Now
I could have just dropped the line also. I like the line, but they could have just had them sit there and be like, whoa, magic is cool, right?
Yeah.
And then
I like the line too. And I did come away from it, I think, understanding what it was they meant to do, even though they didn't actually do it. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, she did magic. And then at the end, you did magic. And because you're magic and you're going to get to do more magic. Got it.
It's
Great.
It's
Okay.
interesting. Like I'm trying to think back to the first time I read the books, because now when I read them, I bring everything I know about the later books to it. The magic system in the Wheel of Time ends up being a very like hard magic system. The show feels very soft magic so far to me. You see like a lot of swirly lights and stuff happening.
Yeah, the books are high magic.
Sorry, Sarah, can you elaborate on that? What do you mean when you say like...
Oh yeah, so a hard magic, if you haven't heard the distinction between hard and soft magic, a hard magic system is one where the magic has very strict and consistent rules. And so when characters use magic, the reader or viewer understands the rules of what they're doing. They understand why the consequences that occur.
The limits, the possibilities.
They understand the limits and the possibilities. And so like Brandon Sanderson has a great essay on the narrative uses of hard versus soft magic. Soft magic is Harry Potter. There's no clear rules on what magic can or can't do. Stuff just like happens, and there are some rules in Harry Potter, like, you know, if you use Wingardium Leviosa, like you can lift shit, but you don't know why that spell works. You don't.
Right. It's not, there's no sort of description of where the power comes from, what is the cost, what are the limitations, all
There's
that
no like
stuff.
internal logic to it.
Who can do what? Why is it different when someone does a different thing? And Brandon Sanderson has a lot of very good systems, both through like Mistborn.
Exactly. So Mistborn is like a quintessential hard magic system.
He's the best at creating hard magic, unique but very consistent magic systems.
But then there's like, gosh, what's it called? Name of the Wind feels like a very good soft magic system.
Yeah.
Whereas
so Brandon's theory is basically like you can do either one excellently. The difference is if you have a soft magic system, you can't like magic your characters out of their problems because it feels cheap and the audience is like, why did that work?
Right.
If you have a hard magic system, then your characters can come up with creative applications of the established rules and use magic to solve their problems.
Maybe I'm forgetting how magic works in Name of the Wind. But it feels like he just goes to magic college and then
Tortash, I think this is right, because in the books, like we don't get Moraine or any Aes Sedai's POV until later. So yeah, to our young adventurers, the magic is very like mysterious.
Yeah, and that's how Game of Thrones went too, right? Which is why it's like we've heard of dragons, we don't see dragons until later. We've heard like magic. Most people in the world don't even think it exists. And then the magician, someone mentioned it in the chat earlier, is like probably somewhere in between, where it's like magic is hard and takes a lot of studying, and it's hard to do, and not everyone's good at it. And that's why.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
Okay. Where's the magic?
Yeah. So it's just like, to me, the show, and maybe this is actually true to the Eye of the World, and I'm just bringing too much of my own baggage into it on rereads. The show feels like, do you have any understanding of what you think Moraine could or couldn't do?
I think only because I've heard you somewhat talk about how it works and that they're like drawing from element stuff. I thought they were hinting at that in the first scene where it's like, okay, well, if Moraine wants to throw rocks at something, like the building is going to come down. She's not like conjuring rocks into the air and then like throwing them. I thought that was like cinematic, and I also like that they didn't hide it, because like that's a hard sequence to film, and it's sort of ballsy to put it in the pilot, but it's great because like it shows, I don't know, for me, and I guess that's maybe being partially used as justification of why Egwene is like, I'm on board with this lady, and the people that maybe didn't see her pull lightning from the sky are like, well, I don't know. Except Matt definitely does see it and is just being like a little bit of a whiner about it. He's got his own issues. It's fine.
Matt's a whiner. Yeah, Matt's a whiner.
He's a big whiner.
I feel like the only thing we know about Moraine's magic is she can't use it on herself, which I think they made very clear, and I like that little. I like watching Rosamund play more and more tired. I don't know. That sense.
I thought it was so
she's
good
doing a great
too.
job.
Once I started noticing like how I noticed that she was like keeping her arm, you know, like keeping her arm like this, but I thought it was just like a lady's weird posture. And then I started noticing more like her curling in on herself. I think Rosamund's so good.
I think she's great, and I think the script is doing a really good way of bringing in the magic system and the lore in a way that is digestible and not overwhelming. I think even like I generally, when Tolkien goes off and is like, these are the mountains when Bordermere, son of Mordormere, like it's so not relevant to the story, and he's just going to tell you because it's a bedtime story he was writing on the fly for his kids. But like in this one, when they tell you the story of like the town that asked for aid and then no one came, and then you find out like, oh, this is the town, and then in the third episode you find out like, here are the guys that didn't come. It's like, so you could have just dumped that all in one and it would have been really meaningless, and now you're sort of getting the story like as it becomes relevant to like why 4 magic children are probably in this town, because like there's old blood in this town and here's why. And it's sort of like,
I'm glad to hear you say that you like the breadcrumbing. A lot of old time reader fans, because some of the stories you get, I'm not going to say which ones, but some of the lore that you get is from a very certain perspective, so it might not be exactly accurate to what actually happened. It's very much seen through the lens and the understanding of certain perspectives. And a lot of old book readers were like, well, that lore isn't true. That's not what happened.
But like, welcome to history, y'all.
Right.
Like, like it's
which
told
is
by
like one of the main themes of the book is history is told by the winners.
Yeah. Or through very, very specific lenses that, you know,
are distorted over time and space.
And I think that's probably setting up like a twist of reveal of like, by the way, this story is not exactly like later on, which is, you know, you want your watcher to accidentally think they know exactly what's going on.
Speaking of those towns, what did you think of their time in the city that the show insists on pronouncing Shadar Logoth?
We're just throwing some extra syllables in there for sure.
Well, in the audio, I pronounce everything for the most part the way the audiobooks pronounce it, which is Shatter Logoth.
And I pronounce it the way the glossary says to pronounce it, because I studied the glossaries like religiously.
So
Shatter Logoth. Shatter Logoth.
But no, it is Shadar Logoth.
Shadar Logoth.
I think the green screen town was very, very pretty. Like, and most of the time looked really good. And some of the time it was like, ooh, we got ourselves a big green screen on this one.
I should have lost that shot of him walking across the street. I think it was pretty tough.
Yeah.
I didn't. Lan's in this church, the Bloodborne church, and he puts her down and he's like, okay, I gotta stay with her. Nobody go anywhere. And then everybody leaves. Like, and he just doesn't say anything. Like, he sees them they leave out the front door, and he's like, go make out.
Lan's like, I'm not a babysitter. Look, I gave you the rules. Don't touch anything. Everything I've known about these children is that they listen to orders. So go and be free.
In the books, they get around that by having Lan and Moraine like establish the rules, and then Lan leaves to go scout and make sure like nothing dangerous is out there, and he's like, you better stay here, and now I'm gonna go scout, and then he just doesn't in this show. And
what are the rules they establish in the book? Because in here they're just like, everyone's dead here, no one knows why, don't touch anything.
So they go a lot more into the lore in the books, which I actually missed that specific bit of lore because I love it, and I think it's like important to the overall themes. The lore,
do you think they'll get into it later?
No, I'll tell you, because I don't think they will. I think
they might, with a certain character that we know.
It's true. It might come up with Matt.
It's true.
I was talking about a different character, though. I was talking about a different character.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, Zach, if you want, or I cannot tell you. It's up to you.
Oh wait, I'll come back when they don't tell me, and then we'll come back and Sarah can be like, "See, I told you they weren't going."
I think to another one of those moments where I felt like, oh, they're just turning the tension up to 11, just like because they feel the need to in every scene, is like when Moraine wakes up and she says like, "You've killed us." Like if she really thinks that, then like her and Lan can't be a team anymore. Like if she really thinks like, you brought us here, it was a disastrous mistake. You have killed the people that I have come here to like rescue to the White Tower, then they actually can't be friends anymore.
Okay, but she was unconscious when all of the big pigs showed up, so like she doesn't get to make that call because there weren't any other options.
In
like,
the books, Moraine makes the decision to go there.
Yeah, she's like all right with it, and I think it's like she's like, yeah, it's an acceptable risk. Like it's definitely a risk, but the creepy black shadow stuff has like more rules that could theoretically allow you to survive a night in Shadow Locust.
I do like the moment, and when I say like, I mean I don't actually like it, but I find it very funny. The whole scene of Matt being like, "Hey, your wife made me this dagger, and I'm gonna give it to you." Fuck, I don't have a dagger. Well, it's fine. I'm gonna go walk around this castle and see whatever. Ooh, a dagger. Yeah. I'm sure this is fine in this very shiny box.
The rule in the show is don't touch anything, which is a pretty straightforward rule, and probably the rule they should have given in the books. The rule they give in the books is like, don't accept any gifts. And so when Matt takes the dagger, he's like, "It wasn't given to me. I took it myself," and that's how he justifies it.
I would not call that a gift.
Yeah.
So then he didn't break the rules.
I would say no, but I think that's probably why they made that edit, because if the rule is like, don't accept any gifts, and I find, a street banana, and I pick up the banana that I found in the street and I eat that, that's not a gift. I mean, that's a lot of things.
So it's a bad idea.
The scene in the books is they meet a creepy guy who brings them, and it's like, "Here, I have all this treasure. Come with me to my treasure room, and if you help me, I'll give you some."
Okay.
So in this scene,
that's clearly a gift,
right?
But which is why they had to change the rule,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it then
but
makes
in the
Matt,
books, they're much younger. They're much more naive.
They're actually the exact same age, aren't they? They're like 19 or 20 in the books too. Matt is just much more immature.
No,
I feel like they play a lot younger.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
Egwene is 17, and the boys are 19.
Right. And Nynaeve is 25. Yes.
That dagger seems cool though. Now that they did get it out of the city, I bet it's gonna be a pretty cool dagger.
It's very Pelagos cool dagger. For an inside joke. It looked like a fish.
I didn't even see that. I just saw a big red gem, and big gems mean
big red gem.
It
very
does
important.
have a big red gem.
Ruby the size of a robin's egg, the size of a man's thumbnail.
Yeah.
Are those two things the same size?
Apparently, that's how it's described in the books.
They got it totally wrong, because in the books, the dagger is described as having a ruby cap tilt, and the ruby was like on the pommel. So show ruined.
You're right.
I think we should do 30 minutes on the placement of the ruby. Like, does anybody have any more ruby takes?
Not my wheel of time.
Not my wheel of time.
Hashtag not my wheel of time. Hashtag release the rave cut.
More like won't.
Whoa, Grant pronounces it woat.
I really apologize.
Grant, you pronounce it woat, it sounds like.
In my head, I do pronounce it woat.
I pronounce it woat.
But is that because you pronounce it woat, Sarah? Because I pronounced it wat the entire time, and then I heard you pronouncing it woat. And since you're always right, I was like, oh, everybody must say woat, and I'm the weird one. And then we found out that everybody says wat, and Sarah is the only person that says woat.
Excuse me.
Zach, I think we need to take a break.
No, I've got it. I understand what's happening now. And me, I say won't.
Wow.
I do a woot. Thank you, Pentor Tash. It's not woot, it's not wat, it's woat. And I know Pentor Tash.
Wait, hang on.
So they leave Shadar Logoth.
They kick through a lot of iron. Famously kickable metal.
Famously kickable. Then we get the plots diverge. So we get Nynaeve with Lan and Moraine. And did you like the Nynaeve and Lan interactions?
Yeah, I mean, as I've already said,
yeah,
I enjoyed both of them. I like that she won't tell him how she is tracking him.
Oh, I know. That cracked
Just
me up. I
ask.
said you could ask, not that I'd tell you.
No,
Everybody
she
say hi to
got
Fat
you.
Boy.
She got you. Hi, Fat Boy.
Oh, I
I'm
love
a fan of
Benny.
this.
We got Perrin and Egwene run from some wolves, and then they meet some nomadic people.
And then don't.
Almost as if they were guided to the nomadic people from the wolves.
Yeah, they did.
Almost like that. It was sort of like that.
It was kind of
almost
like
as
that.
if that
I didn't start thinking that until they said that out loud. And then I was like,
Really?
yeah, I guess that probably is what happened.
Wait, are you being facetious, or is that
No.
true that you didn't?
Because Gawain was like, like they're running from
Gawain is
wolves.
Egwene for the crowd there.
Egwene.
What did I say?
Gawain.
Egwene.
Gawain is the Green Knight.
You can remember her.
Gawain is the Green Knight. Sorry, that's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking of. Egwene,
Mm-hmm.
like iguana, but
Exactly.
Egwene.
Exactly.
Egwene is like, we gotta run from these wolves, and he's like, yeah, we do have to run from these wolves because they'll kill us. No mention of like, by the way, I've met these wolves; they're chill.
Yeah, that one's my bud. Yeah,
this one's cool.
That one gave me a little kiss.
It licked poison and is fine. And then just like, I guess they're like, it's almost like they were guiding them. It's like, yeah, I guess so. It didn't seem like that. It seemed like they were trying to kill you and running. But yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Okay.
But
Good
yeah,
to know.
I mean, that's what we're feeling, what they're feeling, right? Like they thought they were running, and then they learned they were being guided to a bunch of white people with dreadlocks, which boy bumped me real hard.
Did it?
We can't do the white people with dreadlocks. I'm sorry.
Mary Lou has a response for you, Zach.
I actually really liked it because Romani people, traveling people of, in Europe, have a cultural history of wearing their hair in locks. And so I'm like, I read a lot about dreadlock and lock hair discourse because I find it very fascinating because I spent a lot of time in Australia where there are a ton of white people in dreads, white people in locks, and it's weird. It's weird. So this I didn't mind because everybody had locked hair. And so it seemed to me like a cultural signifier of the traveling people is that we have locked hair with people with, darker skin, lighter skin, and everything in between. Everybody had locked hair. So I didn't mind it in the show. I am a white woman. And so it doesn't super matter what I think.
I mean, look, I will say that makes total sense to me. If they're putting thought into it at all, obviously that's good. God we hope. Right. There's like a lazy version of it that's bad, right? I will just say that like as an American, where my viewing lens of this is just like, don't do it.
There's no reason for a white person to have locks in America. It's not cool. Yeah.
No, and I think that in I guess you have to wonder like, who is the audience? Is it global? Like maybe it's fine. I don't know. Also, again, like white man, my opinion on this, hugely irrelevant. But I think that like, to me, it just distracted me. It did not pull me. I was just like, I don't like this. Like
their hair could have been ratty without going all the way to locks. Like, and it would have had the intended effect, I think.
Well, that's the thing. See, I disagree with you there because I don't think they're supposed to look ratty. I feel like it's supposed to look like a cultural signifier because they had, like beads and threads and it's wrapped and stuff. And they're not all dreadlocks because dreadlocks, matlocks, and locked hair are all very different things.
Sure. But then do it like
you stepped into a whole lock discourse.
Sorry, buddy.
Way further out of my depth than I thought I was.
Honestly,
welcome to Maidens of the Locks.
And I'm like, again, if they are thinking about it, that's good. My argument would be like, can you do it in this fantasy world in a way that does not touch on, like, can you just make up a new thing that doesn't sort of like trot on, like that accomplishes the same thing?
Yeah.
If there's a reason to not do it, like, sure, I guess. But also, like, is every single actor portraying these people of
Romani heritage,
of a cultural descent where this is an appropriation, or are some of them actors? And if some of them are actors, then I'm like, well, that's gross. Like,
I mean, that's
it is
a really
true.
good point.
I'm going to pause here because we do have over 100 people watching. This is the first time on our stream. If you're watching, hey, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe
Oh
Don't
my
to our
forget.
channel.
gosh.
Don't forget. Don't forget.
You guys,
And,
if you didn't know, here we're the Maidens of the Spear. We talk Wheel of Time, and we have a really good time.
really good time. And you
A
can
really good time.
you can do all the YouTube stuff. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
Um,
How exciting!
So
Anyway,
I do want to move on from lock discourse, just with the awareness that we are 4 white people. So what did you think of the Tuatha on otherwise as characters? What's your prediction for where that storyline's going to go?
The traveling people who have a song that they won't talk about.
Yeah, that one.
Okay,
Correct.
yeah. I like them.
Okay.
I think
Do
they're
you trust
fun.
them?
I like their dogs.
love their
Good
dogs.
dogs.
They seem good
Big
and
dogs.
cool
Mhm.
and nice and fine. I'm on board.
Vegetarian.
I did not catch that.
Now they're making some lentils.
Lentils.
Great. I mean, lentils. Lots of people make lentils.
Lots of people
Love
make lentils.
lentils.
No, you're right. That was just for the book readers.
We might
Yeah.
find out more about it in the next
And-
episode.
They're
Grant-
why they're
vegetarian, except that they
vegetarian.
eat people. They eat people.
They eat humans, but only on
Yeah,
full
okay,
moons. Only
okay.
on full moons.
Yeah.
No, I thought they were. I mean, like, I feel like they were such the end of the episode. I don't really have a super strong
Yeah.
opinion of them yet, other than the fact that I find the visual interpretation of them a little bit problematic as an American viewer. But
Fair enough.
but yeah,
And Grant, you're well acquainted with the traveling people. Did you feel like this matched your image?
I mean, pretty much. Yeah, I feel like we haven't seen a camp yet, right? Or did we see a camp?
I think
I
you were
can't
in the
remember.
camp.
then they
They
end
were
in
in
the
the
camp.
Oh, okay. Maybe I
Clearly
didn't
left an
finish the whole
impact on
episode
you.
yet. Yeah.
Um,
Clearly left an impact on me. I feel like we're just getting started. You know, let's see. I haven't been fully like I love the direction they're going or I hate the direction they're going yet.
Yeah. And then the third and final plot line we get is in the town of Breen Spring with our good friends Matt and Rand.
And Dana, she seems nice.
Dana's
And-
nice.
And the Gleeman.
And the Gleeman Tom.
And Ronald
Tom
Gleeman.
Gleeman.
Sorry, Thomas Gleeman.
Thomas Gleeman.
Randall
did-
Thor.
So you
Randall
said earlier,
Thor.
Zach, this is where Rand kind of got his shit together a bit in your mind. So did you leave episode 3 liking him more?
More, yes, more than I have in the series so far.
Mhm.
But mostly because by contrast, Matt is so all over the place in the scene. Although I feel like I also liked Matt more than I've liked Matt before up in this scene.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
I think this encounter was good for both of them. I thought the town was cool and good. I liked the way they filmed Tom as he did that song.
Yeah.
That seemed like people didn't really like, but then did like. It was I don't know. It was just done cool. It
Yeah.
was and then I thought they treated the robbing of the corpse in a really sort of like complex and thoughtful and interesting way, where it's like
Yeah.
he's like Tom is clearly judging him, but like, I get it. Yeah, let me know when you're done robbing this body.
And
then
the least you can do is help me bury
is help me
him.
bury him. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I thought those scenes were really impactful too. I'm can you see these goosebumps?
Oh,
we
look at
can't,
them.
but I believe you.
Oh, great.
I pretended
Yeah,
I could.
thinking about that scene gets me like emotional. I thought it was really well written, well portrayed, and well acted. Well shot. I loved it.
Yeah. What
And
did
it's
you
not
think?
in the books. So that's
It's not in the
entirely
books, yeah.
original.
That was a great scene though, and I really loved what it did both for Matt's character and also as an introduction to Tom.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Tom, Zach and Grant?
Tell me all
love
your
Tom.
thoughts on Tom. I love Tom.
I
Tom
was
is
prepared for Tom to be like a Bradley Cooper in what is the musical he did?
Star is Born.
Stars Born.
Oh my God!
Bradley Cooper in
Yes.
Star is Born like, impression. But I like
oh my
it.
God! Yes.
I like. Yeah, I'm down for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So two of my favorite things that y'all have said is that the rings are like friendship bracelets, and that Tom is doing a Bradley Cooper and Stars Born impression. That is spot on. You guys are nailing it.
Yeah. So what are your predictions going forward for the character of Tom, Zach?
I think Tom is going to teach them what they need to know and then die to save them both.
Yeah,
would be sort of like the hero trope thing of like what Tom's deal is, because Tom is cool, but Tom is also too competent.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Any like competent adult dealing with a kid in a hero story is not in for a good sort of third act, personally. But I think he's really cool and I like him.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you in that scene? Yeah, sorry.
He knows stuff too. Like the fact that he's the only one in this town that's like, this is a cultural thing, and everyone in this town is an idiot. Also, I know exactly where you're from, and I'm well traveled, and he's cool.
And what did you think of what the lore that Tom taught you about the Aiel, that man in the cage?
Oh, I thought it was great. I mean, the analog is sort of like, it's the way that European nations tend to treat native people of any other place, which is like, these people are quote unquote savages, and we just like kill them because they're scary and different or whatever. And he's like, well, actually, if you maybe meet one, it's good. No, I thought that was cool. I thought it. I assume they are going to show them later. A lot of these properties do a lot of like. All of it is sort of voiced through the quote unquote like European side of it, right? Like, it's important that what are they called?
Aiel.
Like if we only ever see dead Aiel, like that's a problem. So I assume that we'll see them alive at some point.
We'll see some Aiel. You absolutely will meet the Aiel.
They seem cool. I like the thing about like when they're what is it called?
They're veiled.
Veil. I wanted to say shrouded, but that's only because I'm watching Foundation, and Foundation has that like very scary space hood that they put on people. When will we talk about Foundation in this stream?
I'm ready.
I think we're gonna expand. I think we should expand. I want to watch Foundation. I want to watch Cowboy Bebop, and I want to talk about Arcane. So those are the three.
But that's after the Wheel of Time is done airing.
After Wheel of Time is done,
okay,
we're gonna expand. But if you guys aren't watching Arcane, you need to get around to Arcane.
Do I have to care about League of Legends?
Not at all.
You do not.
Good,
it has absolutely no business being such a good show. Yes.
It does not deserve to be so good. It's wild.
It is so good, you guys.
We're not here to talk about Arcane yet.
Anyway, moving on. Green Spring.
Okay, so Green Spring. The other kind of major prominent thing we get is Dana. What were y'all's thoughts on Dana?
She's dead.
Grant, how do you feel about Dana?
I felt like that whole sequence engaged with. I wasn't sure if it was like I just hadn't gotten to it in the books yet and they moved it up, or if it was complete fabrication. But I felt like it engaged with the themes of the first book in a way that they hadn't. The sort of paranoia that surrounds the first book, and the like misinformation about about who to trust, and then also just like they are people who are not worldly out in the world, and they don't know who to trust and who not to trust, and they only have to take people's word for it who they also don't know whether to trust or not to trust those people. And then also that it had that like, oh hey, I guess maybe I don't have to marry one of the 4 people who was born the same month as me, so like maybe I should start thinking about that. And like that is like a big part of the first book.
He has not learned that lesson yet.
Show up.
Not yet.
No,
not yet. But it's a first step.
When he sees where he's like,
Matt was like, oh great.
Yeah, Matt was into it, but Rand was like, you're not from my town. I will not be marrying you.
You're not the woman I've been promised to since we were born.
To answer your question, Grant, Dana is at once. Dana's a made-up character. Dana does not exist in the books, but Dana also is a few different characters that the boys meet rolled into one. So very much thematically, the plot points she hits are very much of the books.
I felt like it was really scary that she knew what Egwene looked like.
Oh yeah, I was caught off guard.
Scarier than her trying to kill them to me.
That moment, as a book reader who knows everything, that moment shocked me to my core.
Yeah.
I felt like cold water dropped on me. And when she was like, Egwene, I was like, she could have been anything at that moment. I thought maybe she was, I'm not even going to talk about it because you guys don't know, but that was good storytelling, good TV, good TV.
Yeah. It was great. It was great. And as someone who doesn't know anything at all about her, and like going forward, part of me was like, are we about to watch her face melt off as she turns out to be something
I
else?
was wondering that too.
I was thinking that too.
Like,
I was thinking that.
I don't know how she knows. And then she was like, I saw you in visions or whatever or something. It was the justification.
Her dreams.
Now remembering. But I think what's really interesting about this is something that I guess most good fantasy properties do. It's that like there is an evil PR movement going somewhere, right?
Very
like
much.
that's like a reductive way of saying of it, but like there's the argument that the dark forces are making. They're like, well, look, we're actually the good guys here, and here's why. Now it's always a little hard to take when they're literally called like the dark
dark friends.
Like, listen, we're Team Darkness, and let us tell you why we
that's not what they call the followers of that entity. Refer to it as the Great Lord.
Well, hold on, they call him the Great Lord of the Dark.
Do they? Is that what Dana calls him?
Yes, the Great Lord of the Dark.
Okay, well, the dark insofar as she just yearns for the peaceful dark that comes at the end of time.
That's also, by the way, that's a cultural thing, particularly within cultures that have gendered nouns. We don't but it's like one of those things where like if you live in a country where like sun has a masculine ending and moon has a feminine ending, in other countries it's reversed. So people think of like the night as manly and strong and the day as like warm and welcoming, or the day as like, if you live in a culture where like sun is a masculine word and moon, then like the night is feminine and caring and the day is like strong and bright. And it's like, so darkness is not inherently evil. It's just like,
I never knew that.
Narratively, in most places, the dark is like a place of fear and terror, but not all places. So I think there would be this argument that's like, we're the forces of darkness. Here's why darkness is not evil.
That is
but
so
Tom seems to know what's up.
As a depressed nihilist myself, I was listening to Dana and I was like, yeah, right on.
I was like, why would they believe her? Like, I think they might believe her. I might believe her if I was in that situation.
Yeah, but that's because we are deeply broken emotionally.
It's been a rough few years, but
unlike Matt and Rand is fine, but Matt, come on.
I liked her as an introduction to the concept of dark friends, because every dark friend has their own motivation for joining, and some are shallow.
Some people do it for greed and power.
But I liked that they started off with here is a character with a bit more of a complex motivation. This is someone who's been basically like shat on her whole life by the social structures and class economics she was born into, and she like thinks the only way to end it is to end it, and I get it. So that's kind of the first 3 episodes. I would love to hear from both of you. What are your predictions for where the show goes from here?
And we're going to do our best to keep poker faces because we don't know where the show's going to go.
I mean, I also don't like, clearly the big mystery is like, okay, which of you is the dragon?
And who do you think it is?
Well, it feels like it's unfortunately probably Rand. Is because he's boring and they still show him a lot, which tells me as a viewer that like I'm supposed to think that this guy is super important.
This guy was once the point of view character, and now he's just sort of around,
right? And he has nothing else going on. He's the one that has them. Like, one of them has wolves following him, which tells me like you have a wolf thing.
He has a
wolf thing.
You also have a dead wife, so you are not a romantically available at this juncture character, which tells me like you're a sidekick. Matt is doing stealing.
He's doing stealing.
And is making bad choices and has funny dialogue, which tells me, Matt, you're a sidekick.
Rand has some funny dialogue in episode 3.
But Matt has to go out of his way to be like, this is your one joke, and don't you ever do it again.
Yeah, Matt straight up is like, you're telling jokes?
That's an interesting
Wait, did you tell jokes? I thought my thing was that I tell jokes. And
he literally says it. It's so funny.
Yeah.
And
that's good writing.
Egwene's arc feels like, well, she's going to be an Aes Sedai. So, like, she's not. And, like, although it does, like, there is the obvious pairing of, like, Egwene's going to be an Aes Sedai and Rand's going to be a bird sword warrior that protects her. But it also, but also the one who's not Matt, whose name I forget. Perrin could also be a bird sword warrior. Although his dad was not a bird sword warrior.
His dad was not a bird sword warrior. He doesn't even have a bird sword.
So that would be my guess. That that's how it is going forward, because I feel like that's sort of what the show is telling me.
Rand does have a bat thing. He could be the guy who vomits up.
He could be a vampire. Yeah.
Vampire man. So that's your predictions about who's the Dragon Reborn. What do you...
And Grant, you already know the answer to that, so you don't get to guess.
So we're skipping you.
Spoiler. Yeah, I know the spoiler.
And do you have predictions for the other characters?
You know what would be better, though? Is if Egwene was the Dragon Reborn.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Way more interesting.
You have just given thousands of book readers an aneurysm just by saying those words.
Books still exist. Go read the books.
Go read the books.
Okay.
So I'll tell you some of Vic's predictions because I'm curious to see how you feel about them.
Mm-hmm.
Vic predicted Perrin is going to break bad. Vic predicted Lan might break bad, or Moiraine and Lan together. Mm-hmm. Vic does not trust them.
See, Matt is the one that I would most think might break bad.
Why?
Because he makes bad decisions,
and
has something that he wants to protect at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
And he like defaults. He's a ask questions later type guy, which can, if he's given the wrong sort of like go off and do this, like he's just gonna do it, and then he's gonna get back and be like, so was that cool?
Yeah. He's like, no, never. I never will.
We will not be doing that. We will not be doing that. We will be calling it a bird sword.
Tell you what, if you give me something better and more fun to call it than a bird sword, I'll consider it.
Okay, what about Zach?
You won't.
An offer, a heron marked blade. How do you feel about that?
Rather than bird sword?
Right, you're right. I'm so sorry. It's bird sword.
Marked blade?
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
It's just more words than bird sword. You're being worded. It's like bad writing because it's too wordy.
You're so right.
Watch.
You're
here,
right.
let me.
My Twitter account is at.
Let me give you my TikTok acting. Let me give you 2 reads, okay?
Okay.
Ready?
Okay.
Here we go. Are you ready to face me? Though I draw the heron marked blade. Fine, right?
Okay, fine.
Whatever.
Yeah, good.
Are you ready to face me? Though I draw the bird sword?
Wow.
100%.
It's so clearly number 2.
It's like very impactful.
Put it right next to each other.
Yeah.
Though I wield the art of the bird sword. The bird sword has been passed from warrior to warrior, all instructed in the way of the bird sword.
Wait, can we put the why does that sword have a duck on it? Should we call it the duck sword?
The duck sword.
Well, we don't know. I don't know.
Any type of bird.
Also, the dark one's taint. I will not be taking branding advice with said handle.
So let me clarify that handle for you, Zach. When you hear about the male half of magic has been poisoned by the dark one.
Tainted by the dark one.
It drives them crazy.
In the
books, that poison, the corruption is the taint, and they talk about the dark one's taint all the time.
Let me issue an apology to the dark one. Look, the internet is a bad place where you just assume that everyone is called like Robo Butt 69. and they have just decided that is the mantle with which they would like to walk through the world.
To be fair to you, Zach, the showrunners also had the same idea because they've made it pretty clear that in the show they will be calling it the corruption instead of
Great.
the taint.
Yes, take the note. We do in fact not want to call it that.
Yeah, they pretty much are like the corruption.
There's been a lot of instances of that. In this one, it seems like they're doing it. There's some stuff is like too capital F fantasy, and they're like, we need to just call it bird swarm.
The eyeless instead of the murdral.
Yes, exactly.
The corruption instead of the taint.
Because especially in the first couple episodes, I'm getting so many. First of all, I already have to remember that Egwene's name is not Egwene. I have to remember that Rand's name is Rand.
Not Randall.
I'm learning a bunch of stuff. Like, don't make me also. There's no thesaurus at the end of the credits that reminds me of what all these things are called. Although maybe there should be.
There's a glossary at the end of the books, which was my favorite part.
Yeah. We love a fantasy map at the beginning of a book.
You don't spend your time with the world of Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time.
Is that a compendium?
Oh, my laptop is actually resting on that right now. Is there any useful information?
There's a lot of useful information in it. Highly recommended.
It's spoiler free, right?
It's definitely spoiler free. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so Vic, another prediction Vic made is that Vic thinks the world, the dark, the light, this like moral binary is going to be complicated in the future, and we might get either some indication that the eyeless, or we might see some indication that the Trollocs are not as bad as they seem, or that they have their own perspective that renders them less pure evil.
I mean, I will give shades of gray to the Aes Sedai. Obviously, we've already seen like the Red Lady. She seems bad.
Mm-hmm.
Blue Lady. She seems good. So like, it feels like it's complicated already. I think it's pretty hard to come back from that pilot and be like, no, the pig guys are okay. Remember that when that one pig guy was hurting?
One of the pig guy was bad.
So when the other pig guy was like, let me help you to death.
Let me help you not feel this pain anymore.
Yeah, the worm that does the big scary like mouth screaming. I don't think we're gonna see a ton of sort of like, but listen, they can like the person that controls them can have like a Thanos-esque.
Sure.
Like, listen, this isn't sustainable. We need to start from scratch. But I don't think we're going to see I would not make that prediction. For the Aes Sedai, I bet they're deeply complicated. Yeah. I believe that.
And Grant?
I think it would be cool to see if they try to do that, or if they built that in, but I just don't feel like the show is going that way. But I think it would be cool.
Now I want that show. I want I mean, because like that's what every kid's cartoon is now, right? It's like, this is monster school where everyone's a monster and actually the monsters are good guys. Like,
isn't it cool to be different? Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I don't think this is that story with these evil forces in particular.
Yeah. Fair enough. Any other things y'all noticed in these first 3 episodes? Any questions you wanted to ask Zach?
One guy threw up a bat and it feels like that's got to be explained at one point.
Yeah.
That's actually just how people are in this universe. It's like
people
sometimes
barf bats sometimes
you throw up bats.
I mean, I'm still like the most, and as evidenced by the fact that I won't shut up about it. Like, I want to know what these bird swords are about.
Yeah,
I need to know more about the bird swords. I think they're very cool.
I'll be honest with you, Zach. I'm surprised we haven't learned anything more about them yet.
I feel like they probably thought it was too much, and they'll just like do it later. But
my thought is we're going to learn about the bird swords when we learn a very important plot reveal. I think they're saving it.
I think we might learn a bit about the bird swords next episode.
Ooh, that's true.
This Friday?
Thursday.
This Thursday?
Mm-hmm. Thanksgiving.
Okay. Hello.
I already told my family I'll be leaving Thanksgiving dinner to watch The Wheel of Time.
Sounds great.
Yeah. It's just my prediction. It's not how it happens in the books, so I don't think it's a spoiler. My prediction is Tom as this worldly informed fellow,
sees
he's
it.
got to say something about it, right?
Oh, he would totally. Actually, you know what? I think you're right.
Did Rand leave with his dad's sword?
Yes.
Was that made clear?
Not at all.
Nope.
Feels like should have been.
Rand has a sword, and you, I guess, could assume it was just his own sword.
There wasn't a moment of his dad being like, "Here, take my bird sword." He didn't like that. Didn't happen.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, probably because the line was too powerful. The line reading when he
It's
said,
really hard.
People were like,
everyone
wow,
would just turn off their
all we
TVs and be
wanted
like,
to
"This
focus
show's the best show. I've seen everything I need to see."
But remember that scene when Dana is Terminator running with a sword in her hands
That's
through
the
the
bird
town?
sword?
That's the bird
That's
sword.
the bird sword.
Okay.
She got the bird sword.
Yep. Yeah. So I think we'll see that next episode.
I hope so. That'd be awesome.
Any final thoughts, Grant?
I was pretty out on the first 2 episodes and pretty far in on the 3rd episode, and so I really have no idea what's coming down the pipe. I hope it's more. I hope they are finding their rhythm, but it also scares me that they've made 2 seasons and not shown anybody and like not gotten the kind of audience feedback that you'd normally get.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
Yeah, I thought episodes 1 and 2, I graded around a 6.5 out of 10. I was kind of panicking after them. I was very apprehensive going into episode 3. Episode 3, I felt like was a solid 9 for me. I'm like, they nailed it, and I hope that is the future of the show.
I guess I should say, I thought episodes 1 and 2 were a good introduction to the world, but not good episodes of television. Because I honestly don't know if you even could do that, right? But I thought 3 was both. 3 gave me information while still being an excellent episode of television, and that's why I'm really excited. What were you gonna say, Grant? Sorry I interrupted you.
Oh, I think saying I was really far out is strong. It's just like getting to 3 and being like, this is what I wanted.
Yes.
Like made me retroactively be like a little harsher on 1 and 2 than I was when I was watching them. And so I just there are parts of 1 and 2 that are great, and then there are parts that feel rushed and like they've been noted to death and like they're pulling in different directions, and then 3 was like all of a sudden we were all on the same page.
It's hard to think of like a modern fantasy property that has done a really good and concise job with some of its first episodes. I think Shadow and Bone actually does a really, really good job. Although I'm struggling now because that was a binge to remember what was just in the pilot. So I think for me, as someone who had no idea what was going on, really, and like I said, my bar for what fantasy I will watch, extremely low. The first episode, I was like, yeah, because I had read someone online that people were like, the Wheel of Time pilot is a mess. And I don't think it's a mess. I think it's not like the most masterful episode of TV you've ever seen, but I think it's fine. I think the second one, like, it made me want to watch the second one, which I did, and I liked it. I think even more. And then I liked the third one. I think it's been like a very enjoyable series. But I don't have the weight of the whole world, this world, not the weight of the world. And I think that probably most viewers, they would hope, are like me, because I think that your audience for this TV show cannot be just the people that have already read the books. It has to be.
That's why it is something Mary Lou and I really wanted to do, was talk to Vic, talk to you, talk to people. Like, we trust your opinions on media and specifically on fantasy, but we like that you haven't read these books.
I will continue to not read these books until the season is over.
Great, because we would love to keep talking to you about the rest of the season, because some things that I felt were super obvious and were really like them being like, it's almost like the wolves led us here, was like a little too heavy-handed, but like people who don't know the books, they might need that,
I don't know what I'm thinking about these.
And I know that you're like a smart and discerning consumer of media.
But you're a fucking idiot when it comes to these wolves. I don't
know
why you
shit about wolves, Zach.
You know so much about bird swords, but so little about wolves.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, y'all. This has been Maidens of the Spear, where we talk about the Wheel of Time. And what else do we do, Mary Lou?
We have a really good time.
We have a really good time, and you can find us on YouTube at Maidens of the Spear, where if you're watching us here right now, I would really so appreciate it if you'd subscribe and like and comment and all that fun stuff. We also have a Patreon, Maidens of the Spear. If you want to find us there, you can find me on Twitter at Spear Maidens. Mary Lou, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at Mary Lou Larry Moo, which is just Mary Lou with the letters switched. It's not a big deal. I'm gonna write it in my name so you can find it.
Feels really hard.
And thank you so much to our guests, Zach and Grant. Grant, do you have anything you want to shout out here where people can find you?
No, I mean, if you want to follow me on the various social medias, you can. It's just my full name. My last name is Ron, R-A-U-N. So Grantron or Grant Ron on anything.
Grantron.
Hire me to write your pilots, shoot your whatever. My day rate's very high and I'm worth it. So, you know.
And Zach, where can people find you?
You find me in the blacksmith's place, forging a sword to be used for the school of bird fights.
Bird fighting.
Yeah, I mean, I have a podcast I do with my co-host Jessica McKenna, which is an improvised musical.
And it's so good, you guys. Check it out.
100% listen to
Sarah's been on it, so if this is interesting to you, her episode's a great place to start. It's called Off Book, the improvised musical podcast. That's it. You don't need to just like live your life. Go enjoy your life.
Go enjoy your life.
Oh, I'm also in the Twitch chat as at Big Bad Hat. That's me.
Yeah. If you've interacted with Big Bad Hat, that's Grant. Thank you everyone for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful next few days. I'm sure we'll see you Thursday night, right, Mary Lou? See you Thursday night. In the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful any holidays that you're celebrating this week. Bye.